Good evening and welcome to the October 22nd, 2020 regular board meeting of the Roswell Independent School District. I now call this meeting to order. May I have a roll call, please, Ms. Whitcamp?
Hope Morales?
Yes.
Hilda Sanchez?
Yes.
Mona Kirk?
Physically.
James Edwards?
Yes.
Milburn Dolan?
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you. And now we'll have the Pledge of Allegiance and salute to the New Mexico flag.
Mentally, I wonder if I'm here, but physically, I am here.
No, it's just the,
Okay. Sorry, we'll ask. Okay.
what?
Good evening, board members.
Texas.
I will read through the agenda and make note of the things that were completed during the October 13th board meeting prior to us adjourning due to technical difficulties. Then we will proceed with the agenda as planned. Are there any modifications to the agenda?
Mr. President, members of the board, I will have two items that I want to discuss. One to be pulled from the agenda for tonight, and that will be the resolution to the governor at this time due to the virus outbreak in the state of New Mexico.
So we are pulling it from discussion?
Yes, ma'am. I will still have discussion on the 1 to 5, but we're going to pull the resolution at this time.
That's under discussion.
We had it as an action item as well.
Yes, that's correct.
So can it be discussed with modifications or?
It's up to the board whether or not you want to go ahead and view it. I will change the modification if you want to do it at this time, or if you want to wait down the road for a more opportune time to present this, because we may, as things change, it may be a little bit more rapid or a little bit reversal. So it's with the numbers being so high in the state, I just think right now working on this may not be the most appropriate time. So it will be up to the board. I will do whatever you wish.
Mr. Gottlieb, if we pull it from the action section, we can still discuss it
I
in
can-
your part because I do have some questions.
Yes, I
Yes,
can
we
move
can
it.
move it.
I can move it under the superintendent's report.
Okay,
Any feedback from the board?
I'm good with that.
Okay. May we have a motion to adopt the agenda as
With the
modification?
modifications.
Yes, ma'am.
So moved.
Thank you, Ms. Kirk. May I have a second?
Second.
Thank you, Ms. Sanchez. May I get a roll call, please, Ms. Whitcamp?
Hope Morales?
Yes.
Hilda Sanchez?
Yes.
Mona Kirk?
Yes.
James Edwards?
Yes.
Milburn Dolan?
Yes.
Okay, and the motion carried. For executive session, at the meeting last Tuesday, we went into executive session regarding REA collective bargaining 10-15-1, where no action was taken. For recognition, the following were recognized at the beginning of the meeting for their dedication and service to RASD. We acknowledge Shelley Courier, Jennifer Bolaños, Jory Flom, Katie McLean, and we also recognize the Pecos Valley Artisan Conservancy District for their donation of the bottled water to the district. Tonight, we do have Mr. Jesse Galindino. Oh, goodness. I practiced and I apologize, Jesse. Here, on behalf of our RISD custodians, we want to recognize you all for your service, so if you can please come up. Galindo. Jesse Galindo. Thank you. And if you can come up, and board, would anybody like to share words of appreciation with Jesse?
Sure, I'll go first. Thank you so much. I appreciate all that y'all do. From my own experience, I know how hard y'all work, and I just appreciate it sounded very easy, that the negotiations went well, so I appreciate that, and thank you.
Thank you.
Jesse, on behalf of all the administration and the board, we really appreciate what the custodians and the maintenance people have done for our district during a very difficult time. The pandemic has really changed our roles and everything that we're doing. So you guys have stepped up to the plate and have done an outstanding job. As I go to the schools and I see what the maintenance people and the custodians are doing, it's just outstanding job. So I want to thank you very much for that effort and all the extra work that you guys put out for our staff and kids. So Jesse, thank you very much. Appreciate that.
Well, thank you. And on behalf of the RISD custodial and maintenance staff, we'd like to thank all of you. We have dedicated employees who look out for the well-being of the students and staff. We appreciate everyone that is doing their part during this pandemic.
Thank you, Jesse.
Thank you, Mr. Jesse. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank
sir.
Thank you.
Good job, boss.
We will now have inquiries and general comments. Ms. Whitcamp, has anyone requested to speak?
No, ma'am.
Thank you. Moving on to informational items. Mr. Gottlieb?
We do have the fundraiser at school sites information at the school level the companies are partnered with and how much profit is going to go to the schools. At this point where we took a break at the end of the meeting, so we did have that discussion and we took a break right there. So we
Okay,
had finished that discussion and we're moving on. Ms. Meeks had an emergency issue to take care of, so we will have Mr. Cole online for the winter grab and go meals.
okay.
Mr. Cole,
Yes, sir. Can everyone hear me okay?
No.
try it again?
Can you hear me now?
We can hear you now.
Yes.
A little bit better.
Okay, I'll speak loudly. So, yes, our winter grab and go with our student nutrition department. We're currently serving grab and go meals at 15 different school sites. The serving time is 8 a.m. to noon each Monday through Friday. That's 4 hours. We have a little bit of concern as we draw closer to the winter months. I know we've had some really great weather here in southeast New Mexico. It's the best time of year to be a southeast New Mexican. But looks like the forecast is going to be dropping down into the 60s tomorrow with a snow advisory on its way. So in thinking about our essential workers and food service staff out there at 4 hours a day, each day, would like to work with our principals to put those folks inside the secure vestibule areas and front lobbies of our schools as the winter kind of gets a little cooler here as we move forward. So that's a consideration that we'd like to take up with our principals. Staff will and are wearing masks and gloves at all times. Parents and guardians can continue to drive up to the front of the school. The table is placed out front with signage instructing the parents and guardians that meals will be brought out to the table for them. Instructions will be on the student nutrition website as well. Staff will bring out meals as soon as cars drive up, and I'm talking about now as they move into the lobbies and vestibule areas. 2 staff members will be at each site, of course, with the distancing and all the recommendations that we receive from Public Education Department and of course the state of New Mexico. And as those change, we're all monitoring those changes and adapting, and we'll continue to do that with food services as well. Staff are sanitizing door handles as they are touched and switching gloves as they are touched. And if they are not touched, they are switching gloves and sanitizing door handles every 30 minutes as well. Let's see, on the days that we can't keep doors open with airflow, We've got some other measures, including box fans and opening our dampers and those types of things. So we are considering all of those things. We have been reporting our progress on filters and airflow in our buildings to the PED and working directly with them. I think that's gone really well, and that's kudos to our maintenance group again for putting that information together, working with our vendor, Honeywell contractor, who services our heating and cooling units and their filters. So we are actively working those issues and working them pretty rapidly to be successful, and I think we'll continue to do that. So again, as guidelines are updated or changed, we're following those and adapting as we go, but would like everybody to consider our food service workers as the winter comes in, so that we can continue to accommodate our community and feed those meals. Those meals are important to our students and also to, quite frankly, some of the daycare centers that are picking up meals at those sites as well. So want to be able to continue to do that successfully. And if I could answer any questions or...
Yes, Mr. Cole, when will that, since Monday looks like one of those days where we're gonna have issues with weather,
Yes.
has that already been dispatched out to the cafeteria workers, or will that be done tomorrow?
It will be done tomorrow. I wanted to just preface everybody and just give the context as to why we would like to do that.
Okay.
But yes, we can move pretty quickly to do that with the support of our principals for sure.
Okay.
Yeah, and we will. Just so you know, the principals that have been discussing the issue have even come to us and said the same thing. So I think we're in good shape.
Good.
Thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
If there are no other questions for Mr. Cole, we'll move on to elementary council's referral process. We have a young man here. He's fairly new to the district.
Yeah, really new.
Hey, Bruce, welcome.
Hello.
Glad you're here.
Yes, I'd like to thank the board. I'd like to thank the community, the RASD staff, parents, everyone. I've been with the district probably about 20 years and worked mental health maybe another almost 20 years prior to that. So I've been around a while. So I've seen a lot. So when this COVID hit, I looked at what we were doing in our district, and I started thinking we need to link things up. We need to connect things. We need to work together. We need to interface with our students more intensely. So Lauren Dillard, a middle school counselor, showed us these forms that she had created, which is incredible. And I'm going to show you these forms tonight. There was 3 different ones, and it opened the door to connect more. And I have a dream to get all elementary teachers using these forms, and we're working that direction, and we're really including schools and staff, and I want the system for teachers to see that it's their form, and I'll show you in a moment. So linking things up. So that's one way is through our forms. We have a referral form. We have a daily check-in form. Then we have a make an appointment with the counselor form, and they're all electronic. And they can go on our sites, and we're putting them on some school sites now, and then we're working with Jerry Holm to try to get something bigger for the district, where a place where parents can come. And we're also working on a electronic form with Wings for Life, where parents can get onto the site and basically do an application right there and hit submit, and it goes right to Wings for Life, and they can get an immediate appointment or really quickly. Nice. So, and then my dream further is to take all outside communities and somehow maybe link them up with forms with a way that, you know, parents could come on and get access. So that's a little further down the road, but right now our partner Wings, there is an electronic way that we can access that, and we're kind of working and thinking that way. So let me show you some of the forms. As you can see on the screen, board meeting and daily check-in. I made it so it was easy for me to find stuff, and I did it confidentially, so there's no student names, because if I showed you the real forms, which are here, you'd see names, and that wouldn't be cool. So let me run over to my computer. So if you look carefully, you will see, all right, I need to lower that. And you will see the form. This is the teacher and Mr. Gosher's form. Please complete the questions to let us know how you're doing. This is a form for students. You see the responses up here too? My wife and I responded to it. So anyway, students get this. The teachers put it on the platform, and students get it immediately, and students can do it in the morning. And they can just get on, check this, and they go through this form. And we have one for kindergarten, which I'll show you in a minute. Who's your teacher? First and last name, student ID if you know it. How are you feeling today? Ready to work, happy, sleepy, upset, silly, sick, sad? Do you have anything to tell me about school or life? Were you able to find and do your work this week? Do you need any help getting started with your assignments? So on the student one, I'll click the eyeball here, and you'll see this is the student one. It has, at the very bottom, it has submit. So a student pushes that button, and the teacher gets it immediately in the classroom, and teachers have told me that what's really incredible about this is they get a readout on all their kids like immediately. So they can see it, and if they do it daily, they can get a daily readout. And so here's an example. One fifth grade teacher said, I have a student that's sad, and been sad for a few days. Can you touch base with this student? So I jumped into a Google Meet, and they put me in a breakout room with that student, and we worked on it. We might not know this student was sad if this form wasn't here, and so that it connects the students up in really powerful ways. So my dream is to have every elementary teacher in our district using these. So I've already been in, I visited, we've done Zooms and meetings for this 2 schools that don't have counselors to link them up. And we've got that working, and it's starting, and we got some excitement there. So that's the process. But here's the cool thing. I'm going to go back here, click that off, go back here. I'm going to show you, one of the kindergarten teachers said to me, I want to make the form, and teachers are collaborators on the form. So kindergarten teacher said, I want to make the form my form. I want to change some things. Go for it. This is your form, and if it serves your needs, you'll use it. So daily check-in for kindergarten. And these names I changed. So find your name, and they find your name and they check it, because they can do that. They might not be able to write their name, but they can find it and check it. And then how are you feeling? All the things that we saw earlier. And then, do you have anything to tell me? We left that in. And of course, the student one is submit. So I want to show you one other thing with these daily check-ins. I didn't show you on the first one. So can you see 2 responses on the top? Now, if a teacher uses this form, there could be 350 responses, because they do it over and over, and it keeps adding up. Now, here's what happens. You click the responses, you go down, and there's a little circle thing. How are you feeling today? 50%, my wife and I, happy, and we're ready to work. One's happy and one's ready to work. You have to guess. So, do you have anything to tell me? My new contacts, or my wife's eye contacts are difficult. I am in a board meeting tonight showing everyone the forms. Were you able to find all your work? We both were. Do you need any help getting started? And then, if anything to tell us, but we told you. So those are the responses. Now, check this out. This is an Excel spreadsheet. You click this, and all the data from all the students stays in this form, and it keeps tabulating. So suppose I wanted to find out a student's sad. I can go to the bottom of the form, which is the most recent, and work up and see how that student's been doing. And have they been sad? And then they might tell me my dog died or something I was dealing with. So we have the connection. So this form helps connect. It's not the complete way to do it, but it helps a lot. Nice. So I wanted to show that. So the daily check-in. So that's a real cool thing that we have. So that's one form that we created, and us and all the counselors, the elementary counselors have been working on this, and we had teachers work with us, so we're not just creating a form that serves our needs. I wanted to serve the teachers' needs, all of us. So that's what we did. So the other thing, daily check-ins, how about this one? Make an appointment with Mr. Gosher. I'm going to show you a web page that Missouri Avenue created, and I'll show you that. So this is Stacy Damon and her sister created this. So look at it, Missouri Avenue, and you kind of go through, and it's got counseling pre-K. But if you go down, there's a game board, And on the game board, you see the counseling? So click that, watch what happens. You click it, and my form will be up here in a minute. And now there's an English and a Spanish version. I don't have the Spanish out yet for the daily check-in. I will get that. But, okay, so here it is, and click to schedule an appointment. You click that, and here's the English version. Make an appointment with Mr. Gosher, Missouri Avenue, and this parents can fill this out. Their email, what's the nature of your appointment? Are you a student or parent? Who am I contacting? What grade is a student in? Preferred method of contact, contact information, submit. It goes right to my Google Forms it's just there. That's what I love. And I can just find it and I can contact that parent. The parent knows they can just hook up with me in just a moment. And that's like really powerful in my world. So there's one more form that I'll show you called the referral form. And we'll leave this.
I love that game.
So I am really getting to be more technical over time, and I was a people person before this year. So think about that.
That's
So-
scary, Bruce, I'm just
No.
gonna tell you.
It's scary.
See, I think you're adding to your skill right here.
My brother works for IBM, he laughs at me. But
Multifaceted.
Anyway, so here's the referral. So think about this, teachers have it, and we can use it in other ways. So they can make a referral for a student to me. Teacher, the staff, the student's first, last name, the grade, is the student receiving special services, reason for referral, parent, guardian, have you been able to contact parents or guardian, do parents know that you're making a referral, priority, more details, and again, if I click the eyeball, it'll be the real form, and they hit submit, and I get it immediately, so I can look. So every teacher, most teachers in my schools are using these, so I get like lots of data. I can't look through all the data, so I tell teachers, if you're getting students that are sad, check them. Let me know if you're getting students that are upset. If there's an issue, like they might tell us something super valuable that we need to know, and it's just a sign to get connected and figure it out. And that's one of the ways. Because of this technological world, we might not have the intimacy to really, but we get this, and this is one way. So these are the three forms. And the other form that I don't have here, but I wanted to tell you about, I told you about already, is the Wings for Life form to connect parents to that service through the make an appointment form. It's the same kind of Google form, and they did it, and they said, well, we're not sure how to do it. Lauren left, and she came to our school district. But so I said, I know how to do this, but they figured it out, and they did it, and they gave me the forms, and then we're submitting them and working on them as a district. So again, connection, working together, networking, building, creating. So I see this as a process that's going to get bigger and bigger, and we can do it better. And the social emotional learning is a continuous learning model, so we're all growing and learning. And to think of it, it's changing and we're working at it. We're getting better and better as a district. And the more that we connect up, the more that we work, the more powerful and incredible things happen for our incredible kids that we love, and our, all our students and our parents and our community. So that's what we're about, and I just wanted to share that with everybody. So thank you, everybody.
Awesome.
Nice job, Bruce, we appreciate that very much.
My pleasure.
Can we ask a question?
The only problem is, Bruce, we still don't have enough counselors.
I know, we're working on that. I got another question. So someone asked me, are you still hiring for counselors?
Yes.
Yeah, so the answer is yes. I have to check that out. I don't know who that is, but we'll find out.
Mr. Gosher, we have a couple questions. for
Yes,
you.
okay.
I have a quick question. What guidance, if any, do you have from school administration or from the district to help you make the referral decisions? Do you have
For, when you say referral decisions, what exactly
any?
are?
Like which ones you're gonna be able to counsel or?
Which ones, that we've always done that kind, made those kind of decisions. We have, I also got to give a plug out for Jennifer Cole, because she's worked really closely with us counselors and is our supervisor, and has given us like lots of freedom to build and
Okay.
create. And so the referral, based on what we know with, what we see as many kids as we can possibly see. Of course, we're, as Mr. Gottlieb just said, we have a shortage of counselors, especially elementary. And there's 2 schools that we're working on trying to get some coverage and, trying to get a counselor for LCAP and Military Heights. That's why we wanted to hook them up with these forms so I got a couple counselors that are working on that, those 2 schools. So they haven't left them out. So the issues are any kinds of trauma, any kinds of ongoing thing. Like if a student checks SAD 2 or 3 times, or even once, or if a teacher says to me, I've got a student that's having a hard time, they're not connecting. They feel like there's something going on. So the teacher fills out that referral, sends it up, and we see them. I mean, those students are high priority. So it's based on all of those things and what we know, what we've done in the past. And we've done a lot of really real important things, and I know lots of children that have trauma issues, lots of children that have been through incredible things, that have seen violence, that have, and so those kids are so important, and they need, check-ins and connections, and that's the very important and hard thing in this Corona time. So we don't want to miss those guys, and your question is a real good question, and I'd say we go the extra mile than less, because we don't want to miss students. I've had, issues with students who have made comments that are, somewhat, like they might feel sad, or they feel upset, or they're angry, or and we've done threat assessments, and we've done those, and kind of meet with those children and their families. And on Zoom, we can do that. We meet with families too. So we'll do a meeting, and we'll get a parent, and we'll kind of all talk. And we work together. So it's almost like family therapy in a Zoom meeting, but you're not going to not do that. It's really powerful, and it does make a difference. And I've seen some beautiful things happen, too, through Zoom meetings with parents and kids. So it isn't like all bleak. It has real possibility, but we've got to all work together, and that's what it's about. Thank you.
Thank you.
Madam President? So, Bruce,
Yes,
I've known you for a while.
yes,
And when you say you do the best you can,
yes.
probably is one of the biggest understatements that I've heard. You go above and beyond. I know that everything that a referral from a child for you
Yes.
is personal, and you do an outstanding job. And I just want to thank you for the effort that you do put in.
Well, thank you, thank you. It's I do this because my heart's in it, and those children are what it's about. They're important, and they count, and we do this because we love them. And when parents, my eyes are watering now as I'm talking, but parents know that, and when parents know that, we're a team, we're a family, we work together, and we can help parents, we can all, because nobody has all the answers. But there are a lot of resources out there, and as we start doing this, we see more and more resources. So thank you very much for that compliment. I appreciate that. Thank you, everybody. If there are any more questions?
Mr. Gosher, one last question. Are these forms and the system available at our middle and high school levels as well?
We met with the middle, Ms. Cole and I and our elementary team met with the middle school counselors, and we shared the forms. And we started talking about that, and so we're looking at that. So it's starting to move up. So here's what I see. A little idea, and it starts getting bigger, and it starts working better. And we get teachers on board, so it's a form that is their form. And as we start to do that, it starts to really, because it's the right thing to do. And when something's the right thing to do, it just sort of flows.
And especially now.
Yeah, especially now.
Yeah.
So we're working that way too. Thank you.
Thank you,
And
Mr. Gosher.
I don't have a question, but I do have a comment to piggyback off what Mr. Dolan said. I've worked with you, so I know where the passion is. I know that children are your passion. Well, families in general.
Yes.
But now more than ever, this is desperately needed because teachers don't lay their eyes on children specifically face to face and have that touch with them that is so desperately needed. When you walk through the front door, or when the kids walk through the front door, you can almost tell what kind of day they have
Sure,
had.
sure.
And it is so desperately needed now, so I commend you wholeheartedly for working on this and getting this out there.
And we need more, yeah, and this is the time. So when, at the beginning of this
Great
year, I kept
resource.
seeing the possibility of these forms, and I see other districts starting to do that, and I thought, we've got to do this. There's got to be somebody out there, and of course, the technology's new to me, and I thought, how am I going to do this, or how are we going to do this? And then we started seeing more and more potential, and then Lauren just showed us the forums, and it's like, all right, Lauren, thank you. And so,
Well, thank you.
so anyways, I thank you guys for all your hard work also. This is, we're a team, we're a family, we work together, and we make a difference, and that's what it's about in the final thing, if there's the most important. All right, I'll stop talking because I can talk forever. Mr. Gottlieb knows.
I've got a question,
Yes,
and this one is for Mr. Gottlieb.
yes,
I know that it's good that we have these resources for our students, but what do we do for our faculty and our teachers? Do we have anything in place for our staff? Because I'm gonna tell you, I'm getting a lot of calls from staff that are, it's not only difficult for our families, it's also difficult for a lot of our staff.
that's right.
And I'm talking about your teachers, who are the ones that are right there in the muck of everything. And do we offer anything like that for our
Mr.
teachers?
Edwards, it's not just your teachers.
Right, I know, but I'm just,
I will tell you, it's from all the way up. There's no stop on this issue. Per se, right now, the answer is they have their health insurance. They can get the clinical help through the health insurance. Does the district, if we have a serious situation, our team gets together and they deal with that, a death is an issue. But offering day-to-day counseling and those services?
no, but I'm not asking for the question isn't the day-to-day counseling, is there anything that's out there for our staff whenever they're having this,
Like a wellness check-in.
yes, a wellness check-in? Because it doesn't have to be daily, because if you know how mental health works, it doesn't just all of a sudden, it just, boom, it hits you, and then we have a problem. And that's why I think
Yeah.
the concept is perfect.
We
but
do not.
We don't.
No, we do not.
And
If, to be quite honest, this is the majority of our COVID problems right now have not led to many good things. This is one of those exceptions, Mr. Edwards, that this has actually led to the ability to think outside of the box and deal with some things differently. So when Bruce and Ms. Cole first came up with this idea, and to be quite honest, there is a lot of stuff going on mental health for our kids, a lot. We have a lot of agencies involved because of the number of issues that we're facing, 3 to 5 a week, major issues. We have not even got to that point because we are still trying to deal with all of the other issues we have.
I understand that.
But it's a good point.
But it's been on our minds, and we've been trying to work it as much as we can, and we need to do more. Us counselors and Ms. Cole, we've had conversations about how to reach out to teachers more, how to be more available, and it's on my mind in a serious way, what can we do? And we need to embrace those teachers that are working so hard and putting so much energy and their time and in a very challenging situation. So a real issue, and one that, as I was saying earlier about the continuous learning, we're all growing, we're all figuring things out, and for you to bring that question up is a really good point, because our teachers are fundamental, and we care about them greatly, and they're teaching our kids. So we're working on it.
Okay,
Yes.
that's just something I thought I'd throw out.
No,
there.
it's a great comment.
Okay. So, thank you, Bruce. And
Thank you.
Ms. Cole, did you want to add anything on to that for Mr. Edwards? Because I know you've been working on a lot of stuff. And board members, I'm getting text messages from the community. It says they can't hear us because our masks are so thick. So when we ask questions or talk, they're asking us to speak right into the mic.
Okay.
So Ms. Cole, do you want to add anything into that?
Yes, sir, I do. Thank you. Mr. Edwards, your point is well taken. I think we've all heard that. We're hearing that our staff is really struggling in this time too, for a lot of different reasons. So we can certainly work on putting together a process that's a staff check-in for for mental health. I know there are some state resources that PED has on their website, and so perhaps we could link those up to our website as well. Also, we just purchased books for all of our principals called Trauma Stewardship. And so I know it's a book and something else for them to do and read, but there are some really good resources and ideas for really uplifting your staff, your teachers, and so forth during this time.
Yes, Ms. Cole. And Maria, you had to add on to that?
Yes, please. On the HR side, I just wanted to add that we take each case on a case-by-case basis, and through our benefits program, then we do look at what is available to the individual staff member. We also put them in touch with community resources. When we do have a situation, we try to personalize the care that we have. So we have worked out individualized plans with some of our community partners, and we are actually exploring right now what else we can have available, because Mr. Edwards, you made a very valid point. We are seeing more and more concerns, and as Mr. Gottlieb said, it's not just isolated to our students. It is our staff, and so on the HR side of it, we are exploring that both through our school insurance, through the employees' benefits, and also through our community services.
And I think what Mr. Edwards really is bringing up so much is that how can we do a daily check? If the employee wants to check how they're feeling, that's one of those issues. So we'll look into, you understand what I'm
Yeah.
saying, Bruce?
Yeah, we can,
Just like we do our temperature check,
we could
our
easily,
daily check-ins.
we could easily do something like that.
So-
And connect, and teachers that wanted to respond, we can kind of visit. And there's so many resources in our community which people don't know about. One more point is we have a social emotional learning committee, a big one that I was leading and I've been leading, and we have community members. We have CASA, we have Wings in there, we have CASA, we have adult protective, we have we have protective services, we have CYFD, we have lots and lots of organizations, and they talk about all of the resources they have. So there's a ton of resources, and we need to get those out to teachers also. So that's another thing. We can have a check-in, we can get the resources. So this social emotional learning committee is a big committee. It's like 30-something members, and I've been meeting like once a month prior to the school year, starting in, I don't know, whatever, it was in the summer. And we've done a lot of good work, and they're very helpful, and there's real motivated people out there. So we can do a lot, and we can do more, and we will do more.
I want to add on to that. Ms. Cole, and I get invited every once in a while, works with Judge Hudson, and we're working on the interdiction portion of that. That means instead of sending the police out to an issue, maybe we need to send counselors out to the issue and those things. So I actually have someone looking at a grant to help with that kind of initiative to see. I'm sure there's going to be lots of grants out there for the next few years dealing with this mental health issue. So Ms. Cole, you want to talk about that group a little bit that we met with Judge Hudson this week?
Yes, sir. So Judge Hudson leads a group called the Behavioral Health Council, and it includes partners from ENMUR and from some of the health agencies and hospitals, and so they meet monthly to look at data for mental health, what's happening in our area, and really try to problem solve. So about a year and a half ago, Mr. Edwards, I think you might remember this, there was a big behavioral health meeting that took place out at ENMUR, and it was hosted by Chaves County, and it's been a while, about, like I said, a year and a half ago. And so they collected a lot of data, and we're looking at just behavioral health services within our county and growing those and meeting the needs of our adults and our children in the community. And so this is continued work of that initial meeting. And so anyway, this team is problem solving for those issues in our community right now.
So we're trying to look at, because the district touches so many people, we don't just touch kids. we affect the entire community. So we're trying to work with as many organizations as we can. I see this as very important, as you talk about our kids, we talk about our staff, but our parents are also dealing with a lot of issues right now, and maybe not fully understanding everything either. So the mental health crisis, perception, I think is going to go on even more desperately needed within the next few years. As a reminder for everybody, one of the LFC meetings said it will take at least 5 years minimum to recover from this COVID. And it's not just financially, it's everything across the board. So they're looking at it also from that aspect. So, Mr. Edwards, you brought up a lot of good, your one question brought up a lot of good things, so
Yeah.
appreciate the question.
Thank you, Mr. Edwards, for bringing that up. I want to ask that, Mr. Trujillo mentioned that right now we do offer support on an individualized basis. Can we make sure that our teachers are very aware of that process, so if they do need it, they know what steps they need to take? And also talking about the wellness check, I think sometimes our teachers may not be at the point, or staff, where they need that professional counseling help, but perhaps a school wellness check where the principal could make small adjustments to help whatever that situation is, because there's a variety of issues that can come up. But I think there are lots of things that we can do, and thank you again for bringing it up, Mr. Edwards.
So, as we were talking about that, I logged on and I noticed on our staff daily screening, would it be possible to add one more question?
Well, see, that was
to
one of those issues I was just, because Mr. Edwards brought that up, I was gonna say, okay, what do we already have? Why create
what
the
tools?
wheel
Yeah.
when you already have something in place?
So when I
So
did
that-
that, and I logged on, and I was showing Hilda that it does ask how you're feeling, but it's
It's only
health-wise.
It's
not-
health-wise.
Yeah, if you're feeling achy or anything like that, so that would be
So-
an easy.
So I want to say one kind of process comment as a counselor. So by doing the daily check-ins with the students and by talking here, then we kind of expand it. And we expand it more and more, and that's what happens when we all work together for the right purposes. Things
Absolutely.
expand, we help, we make more impact, and that's what changes. And that's sort of what the process I've been seeing this year in the midst of, the one light is all of the new ways of dealing with things that we get, and to make, to see what's really important and how to get to that. So thank you.
Again, thank you, Bruce, appreciate it. As always, for all the years of work.
Well, it's been my pleasure, and such great people also, and
Hopefully
students.
30
Thank you,
more.
everybody.
Thank you, Bruce.
Thank you.
And again, board members, I really appreciate your questions on this, because this is near and dear to a lot of our hearts, because we've dealt with so many issues here lately. Some you know, some you don't know. Some are very confidential. Attendance for success, Ms. Cole.
Mr. Gottlieb, so attendance for success, we had to submit a district plan that showed levels of support for attendance during this remote learning time, and then each school has to submit a plan, and so our schools are still working on those plans, and we had anticipated that we would have final PED approval on those plans by this time, but unfortunately we do not have that final approval yet. So I wonder if perhaps we should wait to report out more on that until we have the final approval.
That will be fine. That will also give us some more time to look at our data that we're studying now. Thank you, Ms. Cole.
And Ms. Cole, will we be able to see the district plan once PED approves it?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, ma'am.
It will come back to you just like this,
Okay.
Ms. Morales.
Okay. Moving on to approval of the minutes.
Board President, members of the board, I recommend approval of the minutes of the regular board meeting of September 8th, 2020. The board training workshop, September 22nd, 2020.
Are there any corrections or deletions to the minutes?
I didn't find any this time.
Okay. May I have a motion to approve?
So moved.
Second.
Okay. We have a motion by Mr. Dolan and a second by Ms. Kirk. May I get a roll call?
Hope Morales,
Yes.
Hilda Sanchez,
Yes.
Mona Kirk,
Yes.
James Edwards,
Yes.
Milburn Dolan,
Yes.
The motion carried. The consent agenda is up now.
Ms. Morales, President Morales, members of the board, I recommend approval of the consent agenda, the approval of the September bills, authorize the October bills, and approval of the October bars.
Is there any discussion? May I have a motion to approve?
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion made by Mr. Dolan and a second by Ms. Kirk. Ms. Whitcamp, roll call, please.
Hope Morales,
Yes.
Hilda Sanchez,
Yes.
Mona Kirk,
Yes.
James Edwards,
Yes.
Milburn Dolan,
Yes.
And the motion carried. Action items are next on the agenda. First, we have approval of Title I Gear Up.
Mr. President, members of the board, I recommend approval of the Title I Gear Up.
Is there any discussion?
Yes, could you give me just a little bit more information on that? How is that gonna work? Is that in the middle schools or is it the high schools and middle schools?
I have the experts, I hope, online tonight, Ms.
Oh, okay. All right.
Ms. Cole and Mr. Bolaños, please.
Yes, sir. So when we put this on the agenda for approval, we had just learned that we would be receiving the Gear Up grant that we applied for with higher ed. And it was specific, we had very specific data pieces that we had to use to select the schools. And so the schools that qualified were Roswell High and Sierra. And so they were submitted to higher ed, and then higher ed submitted their application to the federal government. At the same time, ENMUR
That's why I was
had
asking
also
the
put
question.
together a grant. And so Mr. Gottlieb and I found out that they were offered their grant as well. And so we had to decide which one we wanted. And so the grant that ENMUR wrote actually will be a cohorted grant, just like the last time. And so we'll start with our 6th and 7th graders and all of our middle schools.
Now,
and they will,
if you'll stop a second, Ms. Cole, this is where we had to make that decision, correct?
yes, sir.
Okay, so let me preface all this before you get into this a little bit more deeply. We have never been in the opportunity to have people give money from both sides to us. However, the law is very specific. You can't help the same kids with the same money. So we met with the state agency, ENMUR, Ms. Cole and myself, and we had to talk through this whole issue. Which one is better for us? Which services more kids? How can it aid us more? So we had to make that decision of, do we accept this one, don't accept this one, or do we go with Eastern? And so we had to look at the big picture with the State Department there, and ENMUR was with us. That was, help me, Jennifer.
It was on Friday.
No, that was, who was?
Oh, it was, you would ask Corrine,
Corrine.
and Anne-Marie
Anne-Marie Oldfield. So it was Corrine and Anne-Marie Oldfield. So we talked through the situation, and off the record, and I know this is on the record, the state lady said if it was up to me, I'd take Easterns. But I wanted, and Jennifer wanted to hear the whole discussion, why one was better than the other. Because we're turning down the money, but we're accepting, I'll be telling you right now, we turn down the money, but we accept a greater role from Eastern. And a heck of a lot more help and a heck of a lot more money down the road. The issue that really helps make this decision a lot easier for us is Eastern Roswell has been a wonderful partner for us for years. Not just 5 years, not just 10 years, but for years they've been a wonderful partner with the school district. And one of the issues through this Gear Up, by going through Eastern, our kiddos stay connected with Eastern.
Mhm.
They have a easier time getting scholarships. They have the understanding of why a two-year community college is better than going directly into a four-year college, and all those kinds of issues. Plus, they get to see the opportunity of the CTE programs that are offered out there right now. So there's a lot of reasons for doing this. So that being said, Jennifer, please continue.
I've got one quick question though, before we, so the one with ENMUR will service all of our middle schools and high schools, because the one we're approving, or it says on page 8 of 65, that it's just for Roswell High and
And
Sierra Middle Schools.
That's
So
right. So
that one, Eastern's does all.
Eastern does all.
Okay.
So we approve that we accept it, but the state already knows that we're gonna turn it down.
Gotcha, okay,
But we have to still bring it to the board
sure,
to let you know that.
okay.
So we'll see that one next month?
No, because Eastern is gonna be,
That's theirs.
that is Eastern's grant. And the nice part about this time around for us, is Eastern will do all the hiring.
Oh,
They will
that was my
hire the
question.
staff. They will be part of Eastern staff, not the district one. Because we did have some problems with that issue, but now they'll be part of the Eastern staff. Mr. Edwards, I see some questions right there on your face.
Okay, I'm kind of confused now. So the grant, so Eastern will be taking care of everything.
Everybody.
That
So,
was my question.
and the grant that we got, we're not gonna even mess with.
Mm-mm.
So the action item on that would be,
To approve the grant, they're not gonna take.
But
that doesn't make sense.
I understand that, and I had a hard time understanding that process too. But in general,
Because it was offered, we had.
it was offered, we met with the state said no. So if you wish to, at this time, say, no, we don't accept it, you can do that.
See, that's what that's.
Because we've already told the state we're not going to. And the reason, again, is it's a lot more support for our kids and a heck of a lot more money.
Good.
So, I knew this was gonna be a difficult one because it is the most unusual. We've never had two entities just say, have money.
Here.
I mean, we usually have to beg, borrow, and steal to get money for our kids. So, this was one of those nice ones that we have,
Got
so
to choose.
the board can, to be quite honest, the board can just say, no approval. Just that easy.
Okay.
Well, I'm glad you caught that because I didn't even realize there were two separate grants. I thought it was all.
Well, it's, yeah, it's
For
not
Sierra
on
Mills
here.
High.
It's not
Yeah.
part of our,
So there won't be any hired people within the district at all?
No, they'll come from Eastern.
All straight
So
from Eastern?
Eastern will hire all the people and they'll work through Eastern. The problem that we've had in the past with that, Ms. Sanchez, is that, and the grant's not gonna be gone for quite some time. How many years was it, Jennifer? 7 years?
7 years.
Yeah, it's a
Yes, sir.
long grant. Ours is not that long either. Is that when the position goes away, we have to try to find a position for that person within the school district, which depending upon the cycle of funding and problems could leave us in a very difficult situation, which calls you for a RIF or whatever the situation happens to be. So in that way, it really helps us with Eastern monitoring and keeping hold of the data. You don't have to worry about that because Eastern's going to then accumulate everybody together. So Jennifer, did you want to add anything else for that?
The only other thing that I would add is that Anne Marie is going to look at, she's making a few revisions to their grant, and so one of the things that she'll be looking at is perhaps adding some funding for our AVID classes so that we can keep those going and expand those into, we have a couple of places that still don't have AVID. And so,
Yeah, our biggest concern on that is Roswell High.
yeah.
Just let you know that. So they're looking at that issue also of adding AVID to the program at that school. Now, here's the problem. We had to keep it on the agenda no matter what because it was on the agenda when it had already been set before we found out we had the offer that from Eastern, which was a heck of a lot better than what we had. So it doesn't matter. I had to do what was already set in the agenda. So
We're good.
But there's still gonna be some agreements made between the RISD and ENMUR
Right,
as far as how things are going to
Correct.
flow.
that's correct.
Okay, so I wanna make sure that that's put in record.
When did Anne Marie say she'd get that paperwork to us? Jennifer, do you remember?
I know that she was working on revisions to, some minor revisions to their grant because it was written,
4 years
a
ago.
while back, and so she was updating, and I think she has to submit that to higher ed and receive their approval.
Right.
And then she'll get the information to us.
So would it be possible to get a final summary of their grant, their
Right.
scope of services for our ISD emailed to us?
Once we get it, the answer will be yes.
Okay.
It will be one of those emails I send out to the board that says, for your information,
Gotcha.
here's what it's about,
Perfect.
okay?
And so they've already received the grant, even though
Yes.
she's making tweaks, the state won't deny it?
No, no. In fact, the state's very happy. I mean, they were extremely happy that, in fact, the state said they'd never seen this before. Where two entities in the same area got money. It's never happened.
Last question, I understand you saying that we can't use the same money to service the same students. Our grant was for Roswell High. Could we keep that grant for Roswell High only and use theirs for middle school?
The problem is you have feeder kiddos going in,
From
and
different
you can't target the same area. That was the concern from the federal department, once they realized that both had been given to the same area.
Mr. Gottlieb, on the commitment form where it states that you had to initial the support for the project activities?
Well, if the board says no,
We don't have to.
then you don't have to do anything.
Okay, got you. Okay.
Other questions for the board? Okay, Ms. Morales, we're ready. Let me go
Sir,
back.
so at this time, do you recommend that we vote for approval of this grant? Or the next?
I've already have to
Yeah,
said
you
that.
have to make that recommendation, and we just say yea or nay.
Okay. May I have a second?
So
I'm sorry,
moved.
may I have a motion?
Yeah.
Thank you, Ms. Kirk. May I have a second? Ms.
Second.
Sanchez? Okay, may I get a roll call vote, Ms. Whitcamp?
Hope Morales,
No.
Hilda Sanchez,
Yes.
Mona Kirk,
No.
James Edwards,
No.
Milburn Dolan,
No.
All right.
The
Thank
motion
you,
did not
board. I
pass.
know a very difficult situation, but in a long run, much better for our students.
Okay.
Much better.
Good deal.
Now we have approval of the work-based learning initiative.
I'm still trying to get there, I'm sorry.
No.
I lost my spot.
page 7. Very top.
Okay, page 8.
You went to the old one. The new one's in
You
the
didn't
front
give
of
him
the
the new
book.
one.
Mr. President, members of the board, I recommend approval of the work-based learning initiative.
Is there any discussion?
Yes, please
Yes.
explain.
Mr. Bolaños and Ms. Cole.
This is Mr. Bolaños.
No, that's not, that's Mrs. Cole, I know the voice.
Madam President, members of the board, Superintendent Gottlieb, can you guys hear me?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Okay, because it says I'm muted, that's why I was asking. Okay, so the work-based learning initiative, or the grant that we got is, it is the beginning steps of being able to provide some professional development in regards to the people that are gonna be at the forefront and being able to focus, like, what I would say 3 of our main goals. And that's understanding the partnership of us engaging the community within the CTE and the Perkins-related issues, as Perkins 5 now ties in. Now, this will relay and carry over into some of that, but also being able to define the process of what that work-based learning initiative is, and defining the pathways and the programs of studies at our local high schools. And we're trying to work on how we can extend that so that we can give our students an awareness of what programs of study and what the career technical education, or technical education as it's referred to in much, all the way down to our middle schools. So the funding that you see that was awarded to us in that work-based learning initiative grant there is going to be used for professional development to bring awareness to the people at the forefront, which will be our counselors, our school site administration, and designated teachers, probably our teachers that many people would refer to now in the old vocational, the VOTEC department people, and now as referred to as in technical education. That's kind of just to sum up so that we don't stay here longer than we need to. But, any questions?
Mr. Bolaños, I have a question for you.
Yes, ma'am.
Who's responsible for making sure the district is in compliance with this work-based learning initiative?
So in regards to this, we currently have been assigned a career technical education coach from the New Mexico Public Education Department. Her name is Jamie Cherry, and she's kind of our advisor coach who monitors our steps. So we put a proposal together, a plan, and then she, based on the cost and everything, and she makes sure that we're within our scope and sequence of being able to initiate this. So we're monitored by the PED and also the Perkins 5, and I don't want to jump into that because that one's coming down the road, but that also has to be intertwined with what we're doing here, because the Perkins 5 has changed in regards to how they used to grant that. Those monies are now granted as a consortium, which would be a southeastern part of New Mexico per se, so we would belong to Consortium K, and but that's who will monitor and make sure that we're within regulations and taking care of our plan.
Mr. Bolaños, for the board's sake, tell them who's in that region, please.
So in this region would be Roswell, the Pecos Valley, Artesia, Carlsbad, Hobbs, Loving, Lovington. That's our consortium, which would be Consortium K is what we're referred to as.
Ms. Sanchez has a question, Mr. Bolaños.
Yeah, Mr. Bolaños, does it offer a pay on the job learning, this initiative?
This one is for
Can you
professional
repeat the
development.
question, please? You sounded distorted
Oh.
a little bit.
Mr. Bolaños, hold on a second. Ms. Sanchez, this one is for professional development and creating that opportunity to understand the next step for CTE and what the consortium, because
Okay.
we can't make those decisions anymore separately. It has to be within the group. What the federal government said for years, that's what we are allowed to do, and they said it's not working. So now they're going to do it as a large
As a whole.
group with a monitor.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
So the federal awarded amount of $47,599 is for professional development only for RISD?
So that grant would be the Next Gen Cte grant. So the work-based learning one, we're going to use that for professional development and awareness to all of the people, so that our people can really understand what our pathways and our programs of study are. The programs of study, that next one that you're looking for, the Next Gen Cte, Ms. Kirk, is for, we can use it as well for professional development, but that's also for
Ruben,
resources and
Ruben.
equipment for our students. So,
Ruben.
for example,
Ruben,
yes, sir.
we need to stay with the workforce-based learning one, and we'll get to the CTE one, the next generation, when we have that discussion. I'm sorry to be so rude, but I don't want to mix,
don't
for the
confuse.
audience, I don't want to have those mixed up and not understand what the funds are for. So the question was, the $47,000 that is there for, that is for professional development only, or will there be things that can be purchased with that, along with the professional development?
For
There
RISD?
are other resources that can be purchased along with professional development with that one grant, yes.
Okay, thank you.
And this is specifically for RISD, not the
Consortium.
Southeast?
ma'am.
Okay.
Mr. Bolaños, what are the specific goals for our PD plan and how will we know if we're successful? Like, what are we
So-
hoping to get out of this?
So one of the things so I know Mr. Golub referred to us to stay within our limit, but what we need to gain and how we will know that this is successful is that as our individuals that are at the school sites addressing our students, when our students can have a clear understanding of the pathway or that program of study, how it's outlined and defined, so that they can progress in that, so that the individual, by the time, let's just say that they're seniors, that they can attain certification or be able to just maneuver into, for example, with our partnership of ENMUR out here, that they can tie into their programs that they have. One program that they have in the initiative with our consortium is allied health. And so if we can establish and get our kids that they're funneling into their nursing program, that could be one, or our welding and our metal fabrication into their program.
So we might measure the success of this grant by the student's pathway to certification? Is that how what we'll monitor to know if we did a good job?
Yes, ma'am, that's one way of monitoring success, yes.
Any other
Other questions,
No
board members?
questions.
Okay. May I have a motion to approve?
So moved.
May I-
Second.
Thank you. We have a motion made by Mr. Edwards and a second by Ms. Sanchez. Ms. Whitcamp, may I have a roll call, please?
Hope Morales,
Yes.
Hilda Sanchez,
Yes.
Mona Kirk,
Yes.
James Edwards,
Yes.
Milburn Dolan,
Yes.
The motion carried. Our next action item is Next Gen CTE.
Mr. President, members of the board, I recommend approval of the Next Gen CTE.
Is there any discussion?
So the total dollar amount is not applicable, it has NA, so what are we doing? Oh, there it is, the bar, I see the bar amount, which is $10,085. Is that what we're awarded?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, thank you.
And that funding itself will also be used for continued professional development. We've contracted with the SREB, or the Southern Regional Education Board, and we've put together a plan for our guidance counselors to be able to identify the best method of putting together our programs of study, so that we are in compliance with the regulations that we put in with, for example, with New Mexico PED or any of the other regulations from like Perkins 5 and the New Mexico Public Education Department.
And Mr. Bolaños, if I understand correctly, this ties into the OCR report?
Yes, yes, sir.
Any other questions? May I have a motion to approve?
So moved.
May I have a second?
Second.
We have a motion made by Mr. Edwards and a second by Ms. Kirk. May I have a roll call, please?
Hope Morales,
Yes.
Hilda Sanchez,
Yes.
Mona Kirk,
Yes.
James Edwards,
Yes.
Milburn Dolan,
Yes.
The motion carried. Now approval of the 2020-2021 REA negotiated bargaining agreement.
Madam President, members of the board, I recommend approval of the 2020-2021 REA negotiated bargaining agreement.
Is there any discussion? Mr. Cole, I had a question. I want to make sure that we are going to be covering the full cost of the insurance increase for our employees.
Yes, ma'am. Can you hear me okay?
Yes, sir.
Thank you, President Morales, Superintendent Gottlieb, members of the board. Yes, the answer to that is yes, and in fact, we had to certify that with New Mexico PED recently, and we have certified that. This will more than cover the cost of insurance increase.
I know it was something really important, I think, to all of us to make sure. I understand the times are tough with the budgets and the insurance seems to keep going up every year, which is a hard thing to take. And I definitely didn't want any of our staff taking home less money than before. So thank you to the district for making sure we're covering that and also working with them for that incentive. And I believe they will be receiving that incentive in December. Is that correct?
Yes, ma'am, that is correct. And if I could, I would just like to chime in and thank our partners, both, and I know I'm getting a little off track here, but certainly REA and most definitely CWA are our negotiating partners for both of these affected membership groups. And I would just like to thank them personally in working with us, the district. You know, we talked about doing the right things for the right reasons a little earlier with Mr. Gausher, and certainly that was the theme of our negotiations this year. And I'll tell you, we've had some great years and we've had some not so great years in negotiation, and this was probably the best I've ever seen in terms of working to the benefit of our community, its staff members, and the children it serves. And that was the vision, and we all carried through with that throughout negotiations. And I would just like to thank our local representative president of REA, Ms. Denise Dawson, and Mr. Greg Maxey, our regional representative for the REA group.
Thank you, Mr. Cole. Any other questions? Okay. May I have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion made by Mr. Dolan and a second by Ms. Kirk. Ms. Whitcamp, may we get a roll call, please?
Hope Morales,
Yes.
Hilda Sanchez.
Yes.
Mona Kirk,
Yes.
James Edwards,
Yes.
Milburn Dolan,
Yes.
And the motion carried. Next, we have 2020-2021 REA ratified salary schedules for RASD employees.
Madam President, and board members, I recommend approval of the 2020-2021 REA ratified salary schedules for the RISD employees.
Is there any discussion? Okay, if not, may I have a motion to approve?
So moved.
Yes.
Second?
Thank you. I have a motion made by Ms. Kirk and a second by Ms. Sanchez. May I get a roll call, please?
Hope Morales,
Yes.
Hilda Sanchez.
Yes.
Mona Kirk,
Yes.
James Edwards,
Yes.
Milburn Dolan.
Yes.
And the motion carried. Next, we have CWA revised salary schedules.
Madam President, members of the board, I recommend approval of the CWA revised salary schedules.
Is there any discussion?
Sorry. We are to salary schedule. No. Okay.
No.
I think so.
May I have a motion to approve?
So moved.
May I have a second?
Second?
We have a motion made by Mr. Edwards and a second by Ms. Sanchez. May I get a roll call, please?
Hope Morales,
Yes.
Hilda Sanchez,
Yes.
Mona Kirk,
Yes.
James Edwards,
Yes.
Milburn Dolan,
Yes.
The motion carried. Next, we have the donation from Pecos Valley Artisan Conservancy District.
Madam President, members of the board, I recommend approval of the donation of the Pecos Valley Artisan Conservancy District.
Is there any discussion?
Just one. I see that we're gonna get another
Another.
donation. Will that have to come back to the board again?
It's not, it doesn't meet the criteria of the amount donated, Mr. Dolan.
Okay, thank you.
Oh.
But we have already sent him a thank you and an appreciation
Mm.
from two different areas.
Thank you.
And Superintendent, if I could just chime in real quickly, that additional donation came from First American Bank, Christine Holloway and Mary Featherstone. Were instrumental in providing that to our Pecos Valley Artisan Conservancy District as well.
Greatly appreciated.
Yes. Okay, may I have a motion to approve?
So moved.
May I have a second?
Second.
Thank you. I have a motion made by Mr. Edwards and a second by Ms. Kirk. May I have a roll call?
Hope Morales,
Yes.
Hilda Sanchez,
Yes.
Mona Kirk,
Yes.
James Edwards,
Yes.
Milburn Dolan,
Yes.
And the motion carried. Next, we have the 2020-2021 Student Transportation Service Contract Adjustment.
Madam President, members of the board, I recommend approval of the 2020-2021 Student Transportation Service Contract Adjustment.
Is there any discussion?
So this adjustment is RISD's portion. Mr. Cole, is that correct? We're subsidizing or supplementing each of the,
I think if I'm understanding correctly, I'll just tell you what I know and I'm
Okay.
aware of. So with House Bill 1 of the special legislative session,
They cut,
that was a game changer. It changed all of our budgets that had initially been approved for the
Right.
current year. But with that, there was a cut to student transportation funding across the state. That's formula driven. It's based on the enrollment counts of the 80th and 120th day of each year, and the student membership that rides those buses, or what's called the ridership on those particular count days. But I will tell you that given the status of oil and natural gas prices and the deficits that we were looking at just a few months ago, in response to that, the state did cut those transportation funds. It was statewide, and this is RISD's contribution or portion to that cut. And again, I would just reiterate that our bus contractors have been with us for decades.
Yes.
They are families in this community. Their children go to our schools. They went to our schools because I went to school with them. And I'll just tell you, during the lean times, our bus contractors have always stepped it up and taken care of us. And during the not so lean times, we've always looked to take care of them as well. So this is a year in which they are taking care of us. They are taking a cut. We know that their fuel prices or fuel costs are down this year just because of the circumstances, but those circumstances continue to change. And of course, we could see a rapid increase in fuel costs depending on the ways in which we may or may not be able to reintroduce students to in-person learning.
thank you, Mr. Cole.
Yes, ma'am.
Other questions? May I have a motion to approve?
So moved.
May I have a second?
Second?
Thank you. We have a motion made by Ms. Kirk and a second by Mr. Dolan. May I get a roll call, please?
Hope Morales?
Yes.
Hilda Sanchez?
Yes.
Mona Kirk?
Yes,
James Edwards?
Yes.
Milburn Dolan?
Yes.
And the motion carried. Now we'll be moving on to the superintendent search.
Madam President, members of the board, I recommend the approval of the superintendent search.
And we will be going through and discussing the items, and you should have your rep folder with the documents in there. Okay, up first, we'll be talking about the advertisement for superintendent search.
Before we do that, members of the board, Madam President, I just want to refer to, and I have in your folder, the board meeting right before the pandemic hit. And I wanted to go over that, where Mr. Getty had stated that we'll have an internal search for the internal candidate. Spoke to Mr. Gobb, he's willing to do the process. We would accept applications from internal candidates and choose 3 or 4 applicants. They would then have a 4 or 5 month interview direct, vote on the plan in March. Well, as you all know, things kind of went haywire from that point, or in a special meeting. Mr. Edwards made a motion with the second motion from Ms. Sanchez to accept the approval of option. There was some question on that, so I just wanted to bring that to the board so that we could have that discussion. So, along with that in your package, you also have the calendar, so that when we talk about days and times, because we have to deal with each situation separately. So when we do, we'll start with the initial portion of that, we'll deal with that and then move on to the next, so that we can take notes and make sure that we get all the changes that the board wants in that process.
Mr. Gottlieb, is my understanding correct that you are saying at this board meeting, the board voted for option 2 for the internal search?
Yes, ma'am.
I don't think that is correct
No.
out of the 4 options. I know we discussed the 4 options. I don't have the 4 options here, but I don't think that was the option that the board selected.
Well, unfortunately, this is what we approved in the minutes, so I can only go what we have in the minutes. We'll be happy to go back and look at the minutes
So,
and play the tape.
so let's clarify internal.
I need a restroom break.
Oh, okay,
And that's not my.
Can we
choice
take a
anymore,
break?
so.
okay. Yes, let's take a,
So we will pause for a 5-minute break,
Sounds good.
and the time is 7:20. May I have a motion for a break?
So moved.
Thank you, Mr. Dolan. A second?
Second.
Thank you, Ms. Sanchez.
So are we recording still?
Yes.
Luke, can Okay. Okay. The time is 7:23, and we are back from our break. Mr. Gottlieb?
All right, we are going to verify what was voted on. If it was incorrect, which we believe it is incorrect on our minutes, we can bring it back again to the next board meeting and go over the options again and change whatever the board wants to do. The nice thing about it, as long as you do it publicly and you do it open,
That's
the board,
absolutely.
the
We
board
can
can do
change
those
it.
things.
Yep. I'm okay with internally if it's state. That's why I wanted a definition, but that would work. That would work. Thank you, Mr. Gottlieb.
You're welcome. So the first part that we have, Madam President, board members, is we have the advertisement. And again, this can be changed at any time. Remember, everything was to come directly to me, not to any other department.
Right.
That was one of those things to keep it clean and those things. Now, I would use other department, the HR, to help publish things and all, but the direct information back would be gathered back to me. So
Perfect.
and the board can change that at any time. That's just a board's decision from we move forward. So what we have first, Madam President, is the advertisement we put together for the board to preview today. And as you notice where I left the salaries blank,
Right.
the dates blank, and that process is totally in that, up to the board and how that process was going to be open for those things. So, Madam President, I would suggest start off with each paragraph and
Yes.
see if there's any corrections or additions that you would like to add.
Thank you, Mr. Gottlieb. Board, let's start with that first paragraph and see if you have questions or discussions on that.
There was a suggestion from a board member. I put our actual enrollment as of this year. I could put the enrollment as the average from
Average.
9,004 to
Yeah.
10,400, because it's within that range.
Yes.
But that was one recommendation that came to me. I didn't make it because we had already put this out.
Okay.
So is that something the board would like to do overall?
Yes, I think so.
So,
Okay.
yeah, because right now it doesn't look, we are a large district and we're usually over 10,000, so average would be a good,
And I did send you the 48-year history of
Right,
enrollment.
you did.
So you kind of have that in your back pocket to know that portion.
okay. So we're going to change that?
Yes, ma'am, I will change that.
To average. Okay.
Okay.
Perfect.
Anything else on that first paragraph? Okay, looking at the second paragraph, any questions or changes?
I think it would just be salary would be negotiated, instead of putting a range in there,
I
and
do-
leave
I
it
agree.
blank. I would say just will be negotiated.
Or compensatory to services of this size district. Something besides the range.
Well, see, I tend to go a different, I like the salary range, because when you're looking at it, you're gonna deter people if you're gonna say negotiate it. You have to at least have a starting point. And that's what most people look at, is the starting point and a midpoint. Because if you don't have any figures there, oh, okay, so you're going in blind as a person that's gonna interview for a job, and you don't even know what your salary range is gonna be. It's just gonna be negotiated. Nah.
So maybe a bottom line, and then it says is negotiated upon, depending
Right.
upon qualifications and experiences. Is
Because
that-
what is our top-off rate?
What is the
What's
top
top-off rate?
Yeah,
off rate? What is
that
our
would be
top-off rate?
negotiated.
Top off for the superintendent?
Yeah.
That's gonna be determined by the board.
Yeah.
Okay, see, because that's one of the things that I looked at in the past is, there's always been a salary range. And when you look at that initial, and then you can negotiate from there, people will apply.
Okay.
So,
So what
I think numbers talk, but
I'll put down whatever the board wishes to have in that spot.
Did you all use a range in the past that,
well, in the past, the range was on the deal. It had the start.
I don't recall that. I can look quickly.
No, I know Mr. Edwards is right,
Is he?
but
Okay.
in helping the board, it was not my authority to put a figure in there.
Right.
That's why I put the 0 in there, because I don't have that authority. The only
Right.
people that have that authority are you.
Okay.
And I didn't want to put any suggestions even to the board, because
Is that something that we can look at and then come back and
Yeah, so,
Fill in.
Absolutely.
Because I'm gonna tell you, that was one of the questions I was gonna have.
okay, so beginning salary, and you want a range in there?
Could we
I
put the
do.
current salary amount as that point and then negotiable?
And is negotiated depending on the qualifications
at
and
least they know what
experience.
that-
A beginning, the salary will be,
Put
my,
that in-
okay, so may I suggest that we get an opinion from our legal counsel and, get him to weigh in on this, to
Absolutely.
give us a range? How's that sound?
You're gonna be using him anyhow
Yeah.
when you do the
Mhm.
process, so I would say that's a good point.
Okay,
So
I
can
think we
ask
need to
him that.
address that salary expectations early,
yeah,
and I think we need to include the salary range on the job description.
okay.
Yeah.
Or maybe if we're not comfortable asking, we could probably ask as an application question. I don't know.
When we get to that point, we'll discuss that.
Sounds good.
I'm not gonna, I'm sorry, Ms. Sanchez, I just don't wanna jump around.
Okay,
because
gotcha.
I will get lost.
Okay,
I wanna make sure we stay with advertising first.
Oh, okay.
so then the
Sorry.
benefit package is also available, that sounds good.
So is it gonna be advertised like just within the district or
We're
on the
gonna
web?
talk about
We're gonna
that.
talk
It's
about
not
that
gonna be
too.
on the web?
Yeah,
We're gonna
we'll
talk
decide on
about that.
So for that third paragraph, it is where they can get the application and being able to contact Mr. Gottlieb. Any-
Yes,
And you can change that, no problem.
no, I'm good
It's
with that.
totally up to the board.
Oh, there.
Mike, would you add your email address on
Yeah,
there?
that's what I
Yes,
said.
I
Yes.
would,
Thank you, sir.
yes, I would.
Mr. Gottlieb.
Again. what
And
is
the
it?
RISD number too,
Telephone
Phone number? Mhm.
yes.
Okay. Okay,
For that next paragraph, we talk about the application closing date. So, in my mind, we would kind of start backwards when we would want the person to start and then
Yeah.
think back for when applications should close.
In addition to that, a closing date, I would like to include a closing time, whatever our date we decide, by 5 PM. So if it comes in after, there's no discussion. By the time you leave, it's there at 5. If not, we're
I
done.
think as long as it's postmarked by that date.
There's gonna be a large window. If somebody
Yeah.
wants the job, they're gonna
They're
make
gonna
sure
make
their
sure.
stuff's in there,
Yeah,
or
Right, or
they didn't really want the job.
yeah. But we definitely need a stamp on it saying that, yeah, we received it by then.
Well, that'd be in the email when it was arrived.
So in the past, how long have you all left applications open? How many months or weeks or?
Well,
I don't recall, James. Help me out here.
it was longer than a month,
Yeah, it was, I think it was, I should,
like a month, 2
Hold
months,
up.
3 months almost.
6
I don't,
weeks.
I don't think we should drag it out that long.
I don't either.
Part
I'm
of the
saying-
discussion was that we want to have our new superintendent with Mr. Gottlieb for some transition period. And if we piddle around, we wait till
Right.
January 1st to post this, then we open it up for 6 weeks, there's the middle of February, then it's a month to get review done, there's March, we offer the guy a job, or lady, there's May, and now there's no time to.
What if it closed January 1st?
Yeah.
I'd be okay with that.
That would also
We
be-
still have time to really look at the dates and stuff.
I'll put temporary January 1st.
Is that
Okay.
okay for a temporary date with
Yes.
everyone, January 1st? 2021.
Yes, ma'am.
Or I'll go January 3rd.
Yeah, I was
that
gonna
the-
say, when do we come back?
January
last-
4th is the Monday.
I think January 1st, it's gonna be emailed in, and we make that date.
Okay. I'm good with that.
So January 1st, board?
Mm-hmm. It's fine. Don't have an issue.
Okay, on the second page, we have the digital application package and the minimum requirements to be considered. Any questions or discussion on these items?
Yes, I got 2 of them.
Okay.
The minimum, we're on the minimum requirements?
Yes, sir.
Okay. master's degree, minimum requirement, possess or be eligible to attain a New Mexico administrator's license.
Because if they come from out of state, then we'd want them to have a New Mexico license by the time they're hired.
Definitely years of experience.
Yeah.
Right.
So
Okay.
that's why we have the eligible component is for out-of-state. Is that
Experience
what
as a
that?
classroom teacher.
Now, on the experience, you can designate if you want, or you don't have to designate. All of those is up to change.
I know for me, experience as a district level administrator, I don't think that's a minimal requirement. I think it'd be an advantage or something as a plus, but it may be a great principal who has experience, who is effective, and I don't want to limit the applicants that we're getting just because they may not be a district level administrator.
The experience, that was the next one I had.
But
Experience as a district level administrator.
would be a minimal, yes.
That's a must.
That's a must, I agree.
Because they just don't understand budgets, HR, things of that nature until they get to that level.
And I would even qualify that with putting 3 years experience as a district level administrator.
And that's
Because
it.
we have the saying, going from a teacher, you can't go from a teacher to administrator your first year. You have to have served 3 years as a teacher before you can become an administrator.
But you also have to have your administrator's license. You know, I've asked that question, what makes a good administrator? And I was told, oh, they've got an administrator's license.
Yes,
Well,
Yeah,
yes.
that don't cut it for me, don't cut the mustard for me.
And
there's
3
a lot
years-
more to that.
That's minimal requirement plus 3 years of teaching.
Yeah, but
So,
just because you got an administrator's license doesn't mean you're
You're
a
a
good
good
administrator.
administrator.
fine.
No.
And when you're saying experience as a district level administrator, that's any district.
Mhm.
So my question to you, board members, is we want to make this as clear as possible and make sure I understand what your needs are. Are you saying district level administrator, central office?
Yes.
Some places
Because-
don't, some
But
places
sometimes
don't.
it's not the same verbiage.
Okay, that's what I want to
Because based
get
on
at.
a district, a smaller district, it may not be a district level. The AD coach may be also, or maybe a principal. So a principal's covering the athletics department because of the size of the district.
Okay.
But
So,
that means they have dual roles, but yes, they are serving in that capacity. So, but they have dual roles.
it just, I think it fine lines maybe in there, splitting hairs
Yes.
on verbiage.
But I still don't like limiting the applicants that we can get just because we may have a district level administrator in a certain spot who may not have the background in HR or finance or whatever, but they work at central office, and we're not gonna let a 25-year high school principal or middle school principal apply who is great and could be a potential quality applicant. I just don't wanna limit the choices of great applicants.
Okay, so how would you reword the administrator to make that happen?
I would remove it as a minimal requirement.
Well, there again, we have to have some minimal requirement, and to be sitting in the highest paid chair, I have trouble with that. A principal going into a superintendent's job without having district level, you just don't know how the district level works unless you've been here.
And chances are that person would have an edge and an advantage, things like that, but it's definitely a plus. Again, I feel like we're limiting the pool, and this is the biggest decision we have to make, and I don't wanna limit amazing applicants that we can get.
But if we already know that's what we're going to be looking for, then it would be better to narrow it down.
And my concern is that you get a principal, and a principal doesn't know finance, doesn't know coaching, doesn't know academics,
Except at the building level.
except at the building level.
Not
Because
the
you've got to know, oh, you can't do this because now you're violating, this statute that was last year, or it's a segregation issue, it's a count issue that they never came into as a building principal.
Right, so you believe at the district level, all individuals will have all of that knowledge and information that you just mentioned?
No, but at least they've
No.
got a better chance.
Chance of
Because if
understanding
someone's
it.
never been at a district level administrator, I personally would probably not move forward on that person. Just because they don't lack in my opinion, the experience factor to go do that. You would not take a first-year teacher and make them a building principal.
Well, we can't, we have those,
Levels.
that's the minimum, they have to have 3 years of teaching to become an administrator, and there's a reason for that.
So you heard me and Hope's ideas. What do you guys have on that administrator's line?
Well, you're not gonna have anybody, there's very few people that are well-rounded, even in the administrative office up here, that are well-rounded.
Agreed.
They're administrators, but they don't, I guarantee you,
Every angle.
especially when you're talking finances and,
Policies.
HR, civil rights,
But they understand the resources available.
but anybody understands the resources that are available if you're an administrator. That's why you pay that's why we have
Linda Purcell last week,
Thank you.
keeping us straight.
Yes, but that's why a good superintendent in my book has people that work up underneath them. They're administrators. I guarantee you, 20 people in this building couldn't tell you what Chad, they could tell you what Chad Cole does, but they don't know all the budgets that he has to work through.
But you have a better understanding if you're working in this department.
Each principal has a budget, correct?
That's
And
correct.
they're responsible for the line
I
item
was
and
just gonna
spending of
say
their
that.
budgets.
Within their building.
And within the building, but it's still a budget.
Overall picture, yeah.
You know, I don't know, man, we'll be here all night discussing
So
this.
just
Yeah.
really quick.
I think we should, look at this later on down the road.
So last question though, is there harm, and feel free to push back on me, but is there harm if we take this out and receive 5 more applications than if we had
But I'm
this
good
in?
with that. You know, I'm okay with that. Just that I think that they should know that we're really for the administrators, but if you want to take it out for the sake of moving forward, I'm good with that.
Yeah, I don't care, I just want them to know that we're looking for someone that has administrative experience, central office, or
Could we add is a plus or is?
Put plus.
experienced district level administrator.
Well, and if you look at
Hey, we've
the
tasked-
next couple of pages down, they have to respond about being an administrator.
Yeah,
So I'm okay with it being gone because they still have to answer for it.
Okay, to help you guys with that issue,
Yes, that's.
you could put it under desired characteristics,
okay, desire,
That
would be,
yeah.
yeah.
okay?
Thank you.
You're welcome. I don't want to step on the board's toes on this, but
I was gonna ask you anyway.
Yeah, well, that was gonna come at the end.
Yes, that was coming right now.
we can move it down there as one of the desirable characteristics.
Okay,
That would work.
Commitment to reside in the district and actively engage in the
Anything
community.
else on the minimal requirements?
Nah.
Okay, now moving forward to the desired characteristics with moving the experience as a district level administrator to that section.
okay.
Okay, God. Commitment to building a strong team.
On that second bullet point for me, and it's just me being a little picky, instead of shared vision, or I want to add language, something about goals, because I want it to be more than an idea, a vision. I want to know what the goals are. I want to know what they're going after type of a thing.
So that might be covered in the 3 paragraphs they have to write.
Hell, we need-
And maybe they could cover that, we could reword it to cover that.
I just want it to be clear that that's an expectation that we have of the board when we're talking about what characteristics we want. I
Okay,
want more.
shared vision and goal,
Or shared goals, or vision and goals.
vision and goals. It's both of them.
Okay,
Are we okay with adding vision and goals? Sorry.
Can we put that maybe they need working experience working with students and their families who come from varying cultures, linguistic and economic backgrounds is a characteristic?
you can definitely.
Desired characteristic.
We have do we wanna add it? We have a bullet point there with a
Ability.
diverse community. Is that acceptable, or do we wanna add
Oh,
more language that
that's a
you just
misspelled
mentioned?
word right there too. Ability to relate to and work effectively with all
All.
dimensions
Yeah.
of a diverse community.
Yeah, pretty much, but
All dimensions. So Ms. Sanchez, are you okay with the language there for diverse community? Or do you want to add language to that?
diverse would be more like your different type of cultures,
That's
race
included in
groups,
that.
or,
Mhm.
I still
But-
think we need to have,
We could put including,
yeah,
okay,
the cultural, the linguistic, and economic backgrounds.
or related to,
Mhm.
Wait, what do you want?
related,
Mike's scratching it right.
All of the above.
Yeah,
related to, she said cultural, linguistic,
And economic backgrounds.
and economic
Mhm.
backgrounds.
And that they need to speak Spanish. No, I'm joking. It's a plus.
bilingual is a plus? Did you
Well,
want that in there?
Yeah.
But they could be bilingual in German.
Yeah,
or
they could be a
English,
sign,
or
they could
English,
Bilingual
sign.
in any language.
Yeah.
Or anything, so.
But that's a characteristic, so if you want it in there.
I would. I don't know. Everybody feels.
It doesn't matter to me.
I would say bilingual is, yeah, that's a plus.
Bilingual in any
Any language.
language.
Bilingual. Can be sign language.
Yeah.
I just put bilingual as a plus.
Okay, this is pretty good. I like it.
I wanted to also add one more bullet point around, and I kind of got it from the others, but I wanted to be explicit around communication. So communication, or quality communication with RASD staff, board members, and the community, those different stakeholder groups.
So that's the last one, the ability, or you want to add another bullet?
I don't think we're explicit enough related to communication.
Repeat that again?
Yeah,
Quality communication with RASD staff, board members, and the community.
I think on that one, I think you open yourself up because that's almost like a setup. Because what some people deem as quality, somebody else can take it and misinterpret it.
So help me, how can we add something to be more about communication in here? Because I think
ability
Mr. Gottlieb has done a great job, and I want to ensure that that continues.
Pecos have the information.
I think the commitment to a transparent and open leadership style is almost the same thing.
And I'm probably gonna go with James on that, because that really is just, it's a wide open range. You're gonna communicate, and what you do, everyone's gonna see.
Yeah, okay, I got you. That
And
makes sense for that one.
And I've seen it on both sides.
No, I think you're right. I think it'll fit for that transparent and open leadership style, so we do not need to add anything for that.
Okay.
Anything else on desired characteristics?
How about, demonstrates dedication to ensure that all the students receive the resources, the opportunities and supports their needs to be successful. Successful track record in the work that closes the achievement gap. That was,
I know there is a question related to success. I know, I saw that.
The ability to articulate a vision of excellence for each student.
And on
and
the,
to engage
where's that
staff.
at?
Ms. Sanchez, on the third bullet point,
Okay, yeah.
What is it?
third bullet point.
Second and third one.
Commitment to strengthen and support school district relations.
Vision and
And what
goals.
was, can you repeat what you had said before, read what you had said?
I just
before?
said that he or she has demonstrated dedication to ensure that all students receive their resources, opportunities, and support their needs to be successful. A successful track record in the work that closes the achievement gap.
I like the achievement gap.
Nope.
That sounds more like a job description.
No, but I like that achievement gap, though.
Okay.
Could we add
So-
achievement gap to the third bullet point?
Yeah, that's what I
Yeah.
was thinking too.
Or,
Instead of extracurricular.
Yeah.
or you put it back to your questions.
Yeah.
how it's done, what process used, how would you,
We'll get more out of them if we ask them rather
Yeah.
than make it a.
instead, see what you're looking here in
Like
your
that.
design characteristics. If all of you are gonna apply, you know right here what you, the board members, are looking for in the next person that you hire. So that tells them immediately what you're looking for.
That was a good.
Now, if you want to have an explanation, let's say you have 3 great candidates. And they look really good, and you get into the questioning technique, and you say, that question that you just said, how would you do that? What process would you use? How would you involve what? Then you'll be able to vary by that person's answer, or all 3 candidates' answer, how to judge that question.
That's a good
And what
question.
you're looking for as a board versus a desired characteristic.
That's a good
Yes.
question, though.
That's
But we're not gonna go over these questions tonight, are we?
No.
Because we can't.
Not publicly.
Okay, that's all I'm gonna say, because I'm just saying, okay, I'm just saying, okay.
So are we good for the 2-page advertisement for the superintendent search?
Sounds good, yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
Thank you, board members. That was, putting this together took quite a bit of time.
I
But
can see
knew-
why.
I can tell you, for you all to meet together and decide, that was very difficult. Okay.
Next, we have dates and deadlines.
Yeah, we actually have application material.
But on our agenda,
It's dates and deadlines.
Dates and deadlines. This is part of the advertisement.
Okay,
So
Part
when
of
did
the
we decide to?
advertisement or
Oh,
application?
Okay, so this is,
Application.
oh, okay.
we're moving on to application.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
Again, anything can be changed or added as we're moving forward, because there's not everything in here already. But this is the application. So as you do your advertisements and you get it in, this is what they're gonna see. So this is part of the advertisement, because this is what's gonna go out. Because here's the initial, and then here's the application material that you all are gonna look at.
and so we'll have a list to check whether they have, boom, if they've got this, if they've got that, boom, boom,
Right.
boom.
So
Okay.
the only thing I'm going to do for the board on that process, so that we have a clear understanding, is I will go through and say, do they have a formal letter? Yes. If the application, formal letter and recommendations, if they don't have their recommendations, they don't meet the board's requirement. So
Gotcha.
then that group is set out to the side. Because the only thing I wanna do is if they didn't meet those requirements, because you have your deadline.
Mhm.
You can't reopen that deadline again without formally reopening it again
For,
An open
and
meeting.
throw it open again.
Yeah.
So what you have to do, so you wanna make sure that you have your application material all ready, and you know, everybody knows, by January 1st, you have to have all this in.
5 PM.
Okay, so I'm gonna split hairs now.
Okay.
By January 1st, to me, is December 31st. If it has to be in by that date, I just think the
That's why-
byword,
We have a
That's
board,
why I asked for a timestamp on it, by a
well,
time.
instead of by January 1st, let's put no later than 5 o'clock on
January 1st.
January 1st. No timestamp, but when it comes in on the email, or by midnight, January 1st, I just don't like the byword. I want to be specific as to what time and what.
Well, no later, it says no later than January 1st, 5 PM.
no, the application process closes July 1st, 2021. Digital application must be received by the date to be considered. That's on the very front of this, is
Yeah.
that must be received by the date to be considered. This is the application.
Yeah, so same thing, and you want the time, day and time.
Okay?
And the materials Anybody?
So, well, I think the board president is looking for some guidance on this.
Right, are we adding the 5 PM time? So
Sure, that'll make, I think, a couple of us happy. 5 PM, January 1st, 2021.
Except there'll be no mail.
But there'll be an email.
There'll be an email.
And it's, because this is all PDF documents, so you'll still receive them.
Correct.
one thing I wanted to add to the application is a copy of their licensure, so that we had that on hand and immediately in the beginning and not run into any issues later on.
Okay?
Copy of
Their
present,
administrative licensure
Uh,
or superintendent licensure or whatever.
no, it would be administrative.
Administrative licensure.
Sorry.
No, you're okay.
Close to you.
Oh, no, you're okay.
Okay.
Other questions on that?
Any other questions?
When an email comes, is the time
When it
it's
arrived.
received or when they send it?
When it's arrived by us.
That's the time that it gives you?
Yes, because it will say this day, when I receive everything, it says this day
Okay.
and the time it comes in.
And I like
Even
that
now.
because that means
Even
they
now.
can, they're good with deadlines. If not,
Speaking of deadlines, we're going on to dates and deadlines next. We do know right now we want to plan for the application to close January 1st, 2021 at 5 PM
okay, where are we?
on dates and deadlines. When would we be able to open the application?
We have so,
So, yeah, that's the next point question is when do we open?
Is it enough time to have it open by November 1st, or is that
I
too
had
quick?
November, sometime in November.
Sometime in November? I don't know how quickly that you could do it appropriately.
That would give them 2 months.
Plus the holiday time.
so we got
I
this.
think that's plenty. Mike, is November the 1st?
And
Well, November
Yeah.
the 1st falls on, I believe that's a
Oh, so
Saturday
November
or Sunday.
2nd, yeah.
It's a Sunday.
Make it a Monday then.
Mr. Dolan?
I'm good with the November 3rd. That is 2 months, 8 weeks, even in the chaos of COVID-19. That gives us ample time to advertise and everyone has a chance to get
Okay,
everything they need.
I understand that, but you also gotta remember,
Oh, it's
we're gonna have
it's
to go
election week.
back and because we're still gonna have to go back because we're advertising out or in?
I think we need to advertise, because
No,
All right,
I
so
know,
we
but
haven't
that's-
I know what you're reading. But if I remember the school board meeting, when I read the newspaper, it said that y'all wanted to advertise within a 200-mile radius,
Exactly.
okay? And that's what was in the paper, that the board wanted to search within a 200-mile radius.
Yes.
So,
Great memories.
I don't know
It-
to define 200 miles, but we could change that tonight, because it's on here.
So do we just?
And you're going back to candidates in a time of,
Surrounding neighbors.
yeah, and we're wanting the best candidate. If they're running a district, they're having some issues right now, they may be like, I got a commitment to this district, I don't have the time, and get that for next week. So I think we should just formalize it tonight. We need to make a change based on us moving forward to find the right candidate and get it posted. Because, let's be honest, people across the state know that we're looking for a new superintendent because we lost one and Mike stepped up for a year.
So within the state, is that what, I'm sorry, I've
I
got,
said-
I'm just saying,
Neighboring
let's
states.
make a decision tonight on,
But we can't on that specific item because it's not on the agenda.
that wasn't on the agenda.
So,
but it was.
not on the,
Oh, I'm sorry.
so to throw out one last idea, what if on November 10th, Mr. Gottlieb, you could have like the final draft of the application? We can vote on the option and then open it up that following day or that next day so that we can get one last look at it at our November meeting, double check it, and then open it up right after.
That sounds good.
Because you're
That's a
saying
good deal.
January first. Hell, you
That
could,
would be November.
That's still 7 weeks.
yeah, but you could still move you can still move your time back for the applications to come back in.
Yes, we could.
Because we're coming back on you're looking at January first, which is on a Friday.
Yeah.
If we're gonna go the 10th, let's go, our closing date could also change. We can move the closing date the first weekend, you could go
To the 8th.
to the 8th of January.
Why put it out another week?
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
But if why put it out another week, if we're giving them 7 weeks?
Well, the reason I'm saying that is
Well,
because
the holidays.
you got, the holidays, and let's just give ourselves ample time, because we don't, I'm gonna tell you, this is gonna be, and the candidates, this is gonna be a,
But the sooner we can get that list together, in my opinion, the sooner we can finalize it and then set up interviews for them to come in. You know, we're gonna have to work around their schedules as well.
right, and we're playing with COVID right now. We don't know what tomorrow's gonna hold.
Right.
So, that's what I'm looking at.
Okay, so what if we compromised and went Tuesday the 5th? Or our first, yeah, that would be.
January the 5th?
Yeah.
That makes sense.
All right, I'm okay with that.
All right.
Okay, so double checking, the application we would open on Wednesday, November 11th, after our board meeting to make sure everything's good to go, and close it on January 5th, 2021 at 5 PM.
Correct.
Yes.
Okay. So ideally, we would, Mr. Gottlieb, does it make sense that in January you would be looking through applications to see who met the minimal requirements, things like that?
As soon as they came in, as soon as the date it closes, and we'll make a checklist of everything that's on that advertisement that we would expect. I'll go through that as quickly as I can, depending, of course, what incident happens in the school district, but I'll go through that real quick. Then you'll have to reduce the pool to qualified candidates after I do that. So the question that I don't know this, board members, is do you have to reduce the pool to qualified candidates? And I think you two know this real well. You come in, get a packet, make your selections to interview, then you meet back again to consensus or who you're going to.
Consolidate, yeah, who we're going to interview. One thing I like about extending the date, Mr. Edwards, I commend you for saying that too, because that gives Mr. Gottlieb time to come back and look at them rather than spending his Christmas holiday up here going through applications, which we don't want.
So what I would like for the board to, so I have a deadline, I always like deadlines, is that you tell me by what date you want to have to start picking up your packets.
What,
You
3
see what I'm
weeks,
talking
right?
about, Madam President?
Yes, sir. What-
Because what I need you to tell me, say, Mr. Gottlieb, excuse me, public, Mr. Gottlieb, I want the packets ready for the board members by this date, and the board members have X amount of time to review the packets.
So would 2 weeks give you enough time?
I will work with whatever time the board needs
No.
to say.
That's not what I want to hear.
But we also know you have a district to run, so you're doing us a favor.
Well,
So-
no, this is not a favor. Please get this straight. This is part of what the
We
board
know.
needs. So you want to take your time reviewing these. You don't want to be rushed through this process. You want to do that. So in that process, we need to make sure we're thorough in the board's process. So if you want it done in a week, it'll be done in a week.
What
So-
about Friday, January 22nd, for Mr. Gottlieb to do his review? That would give him almost 3 weeks.
3 weeks?
That sounds good.
I think that might be a little far out, I'm sorry. You know, we want to move along with this, and if there's, say we had 15 packets, you know, there's no reason we can't review a
Check,
couple a
check,
day,
Yeah.
you know?
Okay,
So I
how
would
about
think
the-
that if he gives them to us on the 15th, would be the maximum amount of time, and then would have a week to return them by the 22nd.
No, I'm gonna need more than a
I
week.
did, me too. So I say.
So let's, I'm sorry, Ms. Kirk, can we talk about Mr. Gottlieb's time first on when you
Yeah.
think? So we're looking at either the 15th or the 22nd. Is it past, how many applicants should we be thinking to expect? You said 15, and that's kind of doable. Is that, sometimes is it,
I say give them 2 weeks, 19th, give them to us on the 19th. That's 2 weeks to look at them.
Okay.
so that would be Tuesday, the 19th. Does that sound okay, Mr. Gottlieb?
That's fine.
So we're tasking Mr. Gottlieb to review the applicants and review them and see who meets the qualifications and who doesn't, right?
And get them ready for you,
Okay.
because, and that's not a problem, it's not a problem. It's for me to just check them off, not do anything else, just make
Oh.
sure they do their parts.
Okay.
If they did all their parts, then we make a packet.
And then but we'll get a list of everybody that did apply, correct?
That's correct.
Whether
That's right.
they're,
We'll know Hope didn't submit her references.
okay.
Whether they qualify or not.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
okay.
Okay.
So Mr. Gottlieb will have his done by January 19th. Now we need to talk about how long. So could we just say by February 9th, the next board meeting, we will come with our candidates?
Well, we can't do it, no, we can't.
No, but review the files by then so that we can discuss at the February 9th board meeting.
About what, who we're gonna interview?
Yes, is that the right language? What is that next?
Screen?
For us to go through the files so that we can then narrow down the top applicants.
We don't necessarily even have to do that
No, we don't
because,
do an open meeting. We don't say names or,
So how do we?
Is it an executive session?
yeah,
So, right, so can we plan for executive session February 9th?
yes.
Is that, would that
would
be
be
enough
fine.
The question
time?
I have, just so we're real clear, if you're having a regular board meeting, do you want to have an executive session to go over this, or do you want to have a workshop
Workshop.
to go over this? Because
Workshop.
Workshop.
if you're discussing and looking and trying to resolve differences, you're gonna need time.
Yes,
So I'm just throwing it out to you.
I agree.
That makes sense.
Okay?
So we could do it on the 8th.
Looking at calendars, what do you
Yeah.
think, Monday, February 8th?
For a board workshop? February? Oh my God.
Yes, it's a Monday.
That far out, I'm open.
So you have that date down?
I don't have anything to write on to compare anything to, so I'm making notes, but
Right.
Okay.
they don't mean a
We
whole
don't- I
lot.
don't even have a date on that, so Monday, February 8th, it's 2021. So
Board
we'd have to make
workshop.
sure we advertise 72 hours in advance.
Mhm.
Okay, so after the board workshop, what's our next thing in the
Right.
timeline?
The next, after you narrowed it down, your next point, and what I gotta ask Tony a question, because I don't know this. At the time that you guys have narrowed it down to whatever number that happens to be, do we announce it at that time? Because people will wanna know. I believe the answer is yes on that, but I wanna make sure the board's in legal grounds on those issues.
Okay.
Okay, does that make sense,
Yes.
Ms. Morales?
Yes. So does it sound right to shoot for the month of March to conduct the interviews?
that would give us enough,
Yeah, by the
Yeah.
time we narrow it down and get the applicants,
Yeah.
start scheduling them, so the week of March 1st.
When we can determine a week as we get closer, maybe? So we see how it plays out and how many?
yeah, because if you don't get what you expected, it's very simple.
But at least we'll know March.
But what we did them all within one day.
What?
We did all the interviews,
Yeah, awesome.
but we don't, I mean, it's totally up to us how we do it.
Each board member should identify 2 members, okay,
Is this for where we are now?
I'm going through, making sure I'm doing everything correctly.
some of the documents, he talked about having like a meet and greet with some of the community members, and I think that would possibly be something that would come after the interviews, just a community type meet and greet.
Okay, well, in the past, what we've done is the people that were selected to interview came up here and they had their meet and greet with the community
Yeah.
and the staff.
Yeah.
It wasn't after they were hired, it was before.
Right.
So, that's something to look at.
And based on what our
COVID
Well,
status is.
yeah, that's what we gotta worry about. So we can put that off for a little bit, I
Yeah,
think.
it may have to be virtual, but we could do virtual.
Hopefully it won't be virtual.
But after the interviews, before the hire?
Before the
Before.
hire, we had
Our final, like, three
Like a
candidates.
forum?
well, there was,
Yeah.
it was all 4 or 5 of them up there,
But
Yeah.
it would either be March or April though.
yes. But you don't wanna push it too far out.
Right.
You do not wanna push that too far out.
So if we did a community meet and greet March or April, our goal for a start date or a hire date would ideally be what? Monday, May 3rd? So that they have a couple of months possibly with Mr. Gottlieb?
When is this, yeah, forgive me for not knowing this, but when is school out?
May the
It's gonna be very different.
Because
This
I'm
is-
kinda,
this
I'm
is-
We have
lost
10
now.
days
This is
extra.
a good question. The last day of school is June 4th. Now, that's not for everybody. Right after that, the following Monday, on the 7th, starts the K-5 program for 3 weeks.
So,
On the 7th?
On the 7th. So we will go school will be in session all the way to basically the 25th for K-5. And then, come July, K-5 starts all up again. There will be minimal break
For principals, oh my gosh.
between the both. And that's because of all the issues with COVID and the changing the calendars that were required by the PED and all those things.
And your last contract day is June 30th.
Yes, correct.
so we do have some time. I don't know if it might.
But it would be nice.
And Mr.
Yeah.
Gottlieb, you're open to doing some support at the end and for the transition, is that
Yes,
correct?
yes, if, that's again up to the board's decision.
Oh, yes.
Yes.
That would work.
Most definitely.
And of course, these dates could always change, but for the purpose of our thinking, does a hire date of May 3rd sound good with the transition support of Mr. Gottlieb through June 30th?
Yeah,
Yes.
I would be good with that. But it also depends on the candidate coming in.
Right, right, so yeah, it can all change, but
Mhm.
at least we can,
Have a target date.
yeah.
June, May 3rd.
Oh.
If y'all don't mind, I want to read these dates off real quick just to make sure. 'Cause
They're tentative too, right?
Yes.
Okay, make sure.
We'll have to bring it up if we want to change it, then we'll just bring it back up.
Well, the idea is to bring this in the back, at the next board meeting,
Mhm.
so that you as the board members get to look at this one more time
Good,
Mhm.
as a total group.
Right.
I like it.
And then you can make any or add changes at that time,
Okay,
okay?
Yes, sir.
All right,
so we
thank
have a
you.
clean copy.
So as of right now, we plan to open the application on Tuesday, November 11th. Applications will close January 5th, 2021 at 5 p.m. Mr. Gottlieb will review applications for the minimal requirements to be completed by January 19th. The board will be able to review folders during that time, and we will have a board workshop to discuss on Monday, February 8th. During the month of March, we plan to conduct interviews with the community meet and greet during March or April. A tentative hire date would be May 3rd, with transition support with Mr. Gottlieb, May 3rd through June 30th.
Sounds good.
Okay.
The only thing I would like to, the only last thing I have for the board on this for tonight is, in the past, you had groups of 10 as your meet and greets or interviews. My concern is we don't know what COVID is.
Right.
So I really don't want to block the board into a number, and you can't do that. So I would recommend that we just say tentative meet and greet, unknown number at this time.
Okay.
That works.
Because otherwise, depending upon how this virus continues, we just don't know those issues.
That's fine.
Okay, if you're fine with that.
And did you want to go over this now, or can this be at the board retreat? These documents, 'cause I don't think
We've already gone over it, so
Yeah.
Okay,
that was just part of everything together, just kind of an
Okay.
outline. So you did great,
Okay.
Ms. Morales, that was a big help.
any other questions on this?
So on May the 11th is when our school board meeting, and that's when you present the new superintendent?
It would be,
Okay,
tentatively,
Tentative.
tentatively.
oh, gotcha.
Okay, board, bear with me. I am going to try to read off some of the changes that we made and then take a motion and a second so that we can vote on this.
But it's a report, it's not an action item, is
I
it?
believe we have it as an
It is,
action.
you have to vote on it.
Okay,
No, this is an action item. because
okay.
It has to be public.
Okay, so regarding our advertisement, we've made a motion to make a change to the number of students in southeastern New Mexico to 9,400 to 10,400. We will be talking to our lawyer for a salary range, but we do want a salary range listed on there. We will add Mr. Gottlieb's email and phone number. We will add the closing date to be January 5th by 5 p.m. On the second page, we are taking off the experience as a district level administrator from the minimal requirements and moving that down to desired characteristics. We are adding the word goals to that second bullet point. We are adding language to diverse community to include related to cultural, linguistic, and economic backgrounds. And we are adding an additional bullet point that bilingual is a plus. And does that sound okay? Yeah.
Yeah.
Question, oh,
I just have one question. So on the teams for the superintendent search, that's to be determined at a
that's
later.
the meet and greet.
Yeah, but is that what that is? Is that the
That's
meet and greet? Or is it the teams? Because now I was kind of confused on that one.
Well, we had some discussion on the problem with that, and the issue that the board has faced when they have done that, including the last one, is the candidates that you bring in to meet those people that you've selected, they felt disenfranchised because their selection may not have been part of it, or that their process did not feel, and I'm just telling you from individuals that talked to me.
Validated.
It validated, and it puts the board in an awkward position because, listen,
Told to me too.
as Tony has talked to you before, Mr. Ortiz, is that there are some major points to the board. And the number one is to hire this position, approve budget, approve policy. So you don't want to give that away, but you don't want to disenfranchise your public. So
Okay.
if you want to have people come as a meet and greet, you have 3 different groups. This way you get the community gets to meet that person. Then however many it happens to be, not at the same time, it'd have to be different times, different days. But it would give the opportunity for those groups to meet
Okay.
that process. Does that make sense?
It's gonna be a little bit, yes, I understand that.
And I'll work with you on however way you want to set it up. It's just a thought that we had talked about in earlier, and some of the problems the board faces in, when you ask somebody to come in and do all the interviews and be part of it, and all of a sudden, that's not who they wanted, guess what? You just disenfranchise a
Just
group
didn't
of
take
people.
part in, yeah.
Because they'll say, I really like Mr. Edwards, but I didn't like Mr. Dolan, and you hired Mr. Dolan.
Gotcha.
Alrighty, in addition to the advertisement, we will be voting to approve the tentative timeline related to the application opening date, closing date, review, possible meet and greet, interviews, and hire date. May I have a motion for what was discussed this evening?
So moved.
Madam President, I need to add one more thing
Oh,
that you
sorry.
talked about on the application
withdraw.
and advertisement, a copy of the administrator's license.
Thank you, Mr. Gottlieb.
Okay, with that addition, I make a motion to accept.
Thank you, Ms. Kirk. May I have a second?
I second.
Oh,
Okay.
you got it.
We have a motion by Ms. Kirk and a second by Ms. Sanchez. May I have a roll call, please?
Hope Morales?
Yes.
Hilda Sanchez?
Yes.
Mona Kirk?
Yes.
James Edwards?
Yes.
Milburn Dolan?
Yes.
And the motion carried. Now we will go on to reports. Mr. Gottlieb?
Members of the board, Ms. President, you know, this year, I have told you that this has been the most difficult year I've ever faced, and I know our teachers have ever faced. It has been a devil of a time. And that's the best word I can use for this issue, because it has thrown everything that we know as professionals, as parents, as community members out the window. So we've had a lot of issues. So one of the issues that the board was talking about was a resolution. So we did have Mr. Ortiz work for the board a resolution. I did pull the resolution as an action item, but I would like the board to look at the resolution and give me any feedback that which you'd like to give me. Not that you're gonna take action, but as we're looking at this, and the reason again for the public, the reason for pulling the resolution is that we are now at the point where we're reaching some of the highest numbers in the state. And our resolution is asking the governor to give us some leeway. And I don't think this is the proper time to ask the governor when our ratios, and remember, the ratio is 8 to 100,000. It doesn't matter if I liked 8 to 100,000. It could be 100 to 100,000. It doesn't make a difference. That's what we have to work with. If you take Roswell, Chaves County, and I'm going to use this and then I'll clarify this, rolling average is about 28 to 100,000. If you take the last 3 weeks, I think it's 42 to 100,000. So when you look at just the guidelines that the board and the administration has to follow, we're not even close. We're 5 times greater than the number that we have been asked. So that was the main reason, because it would not, I think, be well received by the governor's office, by this resolution. It may be something we want to put back out to the governor, depending upon what happens through January. So we have it ready, but I would like the board to look at the resolution and say, no, Mike, this is not going to work, or maybe we need to look at a word change down the road. But at least you give me some advice on whether you want some word changes or you just don't want to look at it at all.
Mr. Gottlieb, just to make sure, this is item C under your report. Is that okay that we discuss that first?
Yes,
Okay.
because I think it's going to lead to my next point.
Okay. So,
If I don't do that way, then it won't make sense to the other part.
and the resolution he's talking about is what was sent from Cynthia. So, any questions for Mr. Gottlieb or discussion on this?
Well, in addition to that, if, I know I sent him an email, I copy and paste the governor's guidelines, and at this point in time, she will not approve. She has said, and so did Dr. Stewart, that they will not approve moving forward any additional ratios or opening of schools because of where we are. We're not in the green. So for us to even look at wanting to do that, I think is a moot point. And I did send that information to Mr. Gottlieb, and I'm looking for it now. Because
No,
I
I'm
did
looking
pull up-
for the resolution. I can't find it quickly.
Well, I pulled up the,
Thank you.
what was sent to us.
Right.
And we all got it because it was from Mr. Guillen. He sent it, and so I just copied and pasted that, sent it to Mr. Gottlieb, saying that she won't approve it. So for us to send a resolution is, at this point in time, is pointless.
And things may change as we move forward.
Yes,
so-
absolutely. Let's
so
hope they will.
Well, that's just one of those issues that we have to look at as a board.
Mr. Gottlieb, I do have some questions, and you may not know them because it's not related to, our public schools, but what are the current ratios for our child care centers?
Well, it's 1 to 10, 2 to 20, and some even larger, Ms. Morales.
And this is in Roswell as well, correct, sir?
This is statewide.
Were the child care centers required to update their filtration systems the way we are being asked to do?
I don't know that directly, but I believe not.
Okay, if a child care center, because it's my understanding that the state has allowed some child care centers to use our public school buildings to expand services for child care. If a child care center uses a school facility, would the ratio then go down to the 5-to-1? Or would they get to stay the same at 1-to-10 or 2-to-20?
It stays it stays the higher number.
So in my mind, I'm trying really hard to understand, and this math is not, it's not connecting for me. The dots are not connecting how in Roswell, the numbers can be higher in one building and not the other. And I hear you loud and clear when you say, you know, they won't approve this. My thing, and I've been very honest with the board and everybody, it's been a very frustrating situation, not to take away anything from your leadership or our leaders or the teachers. I know that they are trying their best because I see it. Unfortunately, our best isn't good enough, and it's really hard for me when we're not giving options. If we were forcing everybody to go back to school, I'd be advocating for the families who didn't feel comfortable and who wanted to stay home or who virtual learning was working for. I'd be fighting for them. But we're not giving the families options for who it's not working for. It's been absolutely horrible for some of our students. You know the stories. And even though she's not going to prove it, I want our constituents to know I hear you and I'm going to try to do something. And when we talked about the 5-to-1, because I've been pushing and struggling and trying to learn as much as I can, because of our district size and the staffing and the students that we serve, it's not easy by any means to do the 5-to-1 for our population here, but a 9-to-1 is doable. So why are we not going to advocate for what's doable for us if we can do this in the daycare centers? At least to try to be that voice to say, hey, this won't work, but this will. Or at least ask if we can move to the yellow phase, then would you consider it? I don't like us not trying to do something when our families, they're calling me teachers, they're begging for something. And I just would like us as a board to take a position and say, well, here's what we can do or what we're gonna try, knowing that they may deny it. But what can we do?
Board members, I can still move forward with my request for a waiver. I still have that. I'm going to work on a few modifications on my waiver, but I have a waiver request ready.
Okay,
And that's the 9-to-1
It's
ratio.
9-to-1.
okay, then that might be an option for us, and if we do get shut down, we get shut down.
And the waiver by statute is legal,
Okay,
and it's appropriate.
And again, we're not forcing families who don't feel comfortable. You know, it's not at all trying to do that. Do we even know, as far as teachers, would we have enough teachers who are willing to go back in the buildings to do this?
That's a big
That,
question.
and you all have to remember, sorry, audience, we all have to remember, no matter what, because we're not in hybrid, it's only K through 3.
yeah,
Yep.
What about pre-K, sir? I didn't understand that.
It's one of those ones that I'm dealing with the state right now, because it's not under the PED, it's under a different organization, so we're having some discussions on that,
Okay.
process. So
Okay.
at this time, it would be K through 3 only. You're leaving out everybody else.
yeah.
I don't know how to put this without breaking down for you guys.
I know, Mr. Godwin, I feel the same way.
The issues that our staff have faced is just, I can't even begin to describe to you the difficulty our teachers are having. Administrators, counselors, secretaries, on a daily basis, not once a week, not every other day, on a daily and hourly basis. And I've been very fortunate and very blessed that I've had teachers ask me to take part of their Zooms. And I see what they deal with on a daily basis, on an hourly basis. And I will tell you, I'm very proud of what they've done, but we're not meeting their needs. I'm just gonna be straight out. And I don't have all the data yet. Wow. Okay. without naming schools, and I don't have all the schools yet, so I'm just gonna kind of give you an overview. And I'll give this to the board later on when I get all the data. One middle school has, now remember, kiddos have 8 classes, middle school, 7 to 8 classes. So one kiddo can have 8 different grades, okay? So we all talk the same language. We have 911 Fs and 281 Ds. The next school has 1,272 Fs and 291 Ds. This next school has 1,734 Fs and 738 Ds. One of the senior groups at our school has 101 Fs and 69 Ds. This is your seniors board.
Graduating.
The next school has 3,549 Fs and 1,104 Ds. Another high school group of the senior group has 252 Fs and 112 Ds.
Are those up-to-date grades
That
before the
is- that
back
is-
on target?
That is as of today. I don't have them all finished because in our system, this goes back to knowing what you're talking about. Within our student informational system, we have to verify all the information before we can get it in. And that's a long process to do that, and make sure that everything's correct. So you have to understand that the technology moves forward on that. Now, this district is very blessed to have excellent secretaries, teachers working on this, but you have one individual that works very hard on this, and she does an outstanding job on verifying it. And when she gives me this information, it's straight up.
Yeah.
And I think you've recognized this lady once already. So, as your superintendent, I can tell you right now, we're failing our kids, and we're failing our kids terribly. Now, is this just Roswell's problem?
No.
This is nationally. Another information which is heartbreaking to me, is 50%, over 50% of our kindergartners statewide, I don't have our individual data yet, have already failed the first iStation assessment. That number's usually around 19%. Ms. Cole and myself are already meeting with the principal saying, what are we gonna do? What are we gonna do? Now, we can move people forward as we go through the years. You can't do that in high school. I have 2 mothers here, right here, high school kids know what I'm talking about.
One is senior, and I'm
So,
feeling it.
we're gonna have to figure out how to reschedule and redo these things as we move forward. No matter what situation we do, until we get those kids back in, and we work with the kids one-on-one in classrooms, provide the after-school. Right now, we can only provide after-school for K through 3. And I mean, in groups of 5.
Those are our most vulnerable.
It's unconscionable. And I'm not blaming anybody. Please
right.
understand
No,
that.
absolutely.
I'm not blaming
It's the
anybody.
data.
It is
It is
just
what it
a
is.
fact.
Yeah.
And it is very difficult for our teachers to continue at this process. And I'm not just talking K-3, I am talking K-12, straight across the board, where you're dealing with 3 to 5 kids, attempted suicides, cuttings, all the issues that we're having to deal with. It is, like I said, the devil has to be in part of this because there's no other answer to this. To continue this process, and I know I have these things broken out, but everything ties together. Nothing is individual. At this point, we've already had to deal with 32 staff that had COVID and 46 students that had COVID. Now, the majority, and I'm talking 90% plus higher, and it's probably about 95%, all came in from our community. There were very few cases where it was student to student within our own building, or staff to staff in their own building. We do have a few. I will not lie to you about that. But this is what it did to us. We had to put over 275 staff on leave for 14 days due to that process.
So what would that do to
I-
our children?
Well, this is when I wanted to talk about the 1 to 5 and the 9 to 1
And then
ratio.
9 to 1, yeah.
Here's the problem. We don't have enough subs and custodians. We don't have enough subs for teachers. And even if you had the sub for teachers, guess what? They can't do
they
with
can't
do
Canvas, they can't do with Seesaw, they can't deal with all that stuff.
They're not trained.
So if you, the more you bring in, the greater problems you have. Now, what is the 9 to 1 so different from the 5 to 1? Very simple. At 9 to 1 in K through 3, notice I said K through 3, I'm staying within regulations. At 9 to 1, I can get them in 2 days a week. Most of them. Not all, but most of them. And I might be able to figure out a way to get all of them in 2 days a week. If you go to 5 to 1, we raise up that issue, and you raise up your issue of deep cleaning. Because you, according to the guidance that we have, you have to deep clean every time you bring a kiddo set in. Well, you multiply that times each building by each classroom.
It's not doable.
And then you're exposing more and more staff. At the 9 to 1, yes, you'd have that problem, and it does bring it up more. But I have the greater opportunity to bring those kids in, and the blessed part of that is that you can see them twice a week, all day long. And if someone is ill, for whatever reason, be it the flu, be it COVID, family illness, a substitute can step in and teach, because this is what they can do at 9 to 1. They can teach for 2 days, they go home, you give them work to do while they're at home. You teach, then you teach your next 2 group. At 1 to 5, your poor staff, who's already stressed out, as Mr. Edwards has pointed out, and so many others, you have 5 in the classroom you gotta deal with, and you have 15 more to 22 more out there in cyberspace. Those of you that have been teachers understand that who are you going to give your most attention to first? The 5 in there. Now you've already disenfranchised your 15 or 14 or 12 or 10. That's out in cyberspace. I'm advocating for staff, but I will do whatever the board asks me to do. I have, as a superintendent, I'm trying to balance for the board all the options that are out there, but my direction comes from the board. I just can't tell you how difficult it is to go to the buildings and watch this issue. So it's not an easy answer. I know you've taken a lot of calls. We have to heated people, questioning people. Why is this district doing this one? I will tell you, and I will not reveal their name because they asked me not to. I have talked to teachers from those districts. Now, you always have some that say one thing, some that say another. I understand that. But the ones I talked to randomly said they hate it because of that issue of going back and forth and back and forth. And you watch the teachers that are engaged with the kids on the internet, they are totally focused and engaged in what's going on. I can stop little Mike, or at least put him in a separate room or mute him fast enough when little Mike decides to do something that's very inappropriate. And I won't even describe some of the things our teachers have had to deal with very inappropriately.
And administrators?
So,
But Mr. Gottlieb, if I may share the other part on what I hear from teachers who are working in the hybrid environment with half of their class, is they're doing the live instruction with students in class those 2 days. And when they go home, they're working on math, paper packets, so they're not online so much, and then reading online programs. So they're not doing double the teaching at
That's
the
right.
same time.
that's correct.
So they
Ms.
kind of
Ellis.
figured it out better, so it's not that added stress of you guys and you guys. The focus is live instruction and then the practice at home.
That's the desire to get a hybrid. As you bring forth, and another important point, because you know we've started to see eye strain, We've actually had kids that can't, because they've developed migraines now because of this issue. They've had to get more packets on that problem. When you go to the 9-to-1, even not even out of the hybrid, when you go to the 9-to-1, all of a sudden, you don't have to use the computer so much.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And those of you that have grandkids, kids, understand that very process, what it's like for those kids all day. So, you know, I'm open for you to tell me what to do. I don't have a right answer. I don't think there is a right answer.
There is.
We don't have one.
So I'll do whatever you wish.
For this discussion, I would like to just start off related to the waiver request that Mr. Gottlieb can make for a 9-to-1 ratio. I support that.
And I would too. I would support moving forward with the 9-to-1 ratio to the governor.
All right, you can't take a vote, so let's just,
Okay.
I will submit it.
Yeah.
I will submit it on
Right.
behalf of the school district for
Okay.
that point. And it doesn't get the political issues that the board will face
Right.
on the other part. So
Right.
that's a good thing. I will answer any questions that you may have on this, because I've covered a lot of topics. But it's everything, you cannot separate these things. It's all related.
So questions, board members, because I did a lot of talking.
So, Mr. Gottlieb, we're looking at over 60% of our students or more
Yes, ma'am.
failing?
You're correct. Good figure on math, Ms.
Yeah.
Sanchez, because that's about right.
Mr. Gottlieb, did you have the grades before the 3-day get back on target? Like,
No, I did not.
because I know personally that helped us as a family and we really took care of a lot of
Well,
it, but I'm curious as to
We're
what
gonna do a
impacted
better
it.
job of that. We're gonna keep that again. We've had a lot of families that said,
Yes.
thank God.
Yeah,
They really did, but we're gonna advertise it quicker,
good.
so they know when that time is. The other issue for the board is it also lets the kids know, not like the springtime, they are accountable for their grades. And that's one thing that the teachers have been very concerned is, you have little Mike, Mike doesn't really care, but the parents do.
Yeah.
So it does bring that part. So thank you, Ms. Morales, for bringing that up.
Mr. Gottlieb, can we communicate to the parents, shout out to Mr. Harden, he did a wonderful job helping me as a parent understand grades, semester grades, GPAs, what kind of counts.
Absolutely.
So our students, even though they got an F this first quarter, the second quarter really matters, and they can pick that up for what they need
Absolutely.
for credits. So I just want to make sure our families understand that there is still time.
We actually have a meeting on tomorrow morning on that issue,
Awesome.
so.
And maybe a better communication with parents on Power School, so they can go in and look to see what their kid has and not be blindsided by an F or an I. I know it's out there, we've had it for years, but maybe we can reach out to the parents again and say, hey, this is how you can look at little Milby's grades or his attendance because he's not logging in correctly.
Can I just?
We'll be more than happy to do that. And what we have been working on, Mr. Dolan, which have been very successful to a point, is offer those online and maybe videotape those, so it's always available. Power School, questions, check on your grades, here's how you do it.
Thank you, sir.
Yeah, a Zoom with the parents, offering that support might be helpful because several parents I've talked to aren't familiar with Power School. I don't know how parents parented without Power School.
So we'll be happy to do that. Let me write myself a note. Thank you for your time, board. I'm sorry about my stress on that area. It just breaks my heart.
Oh, it does, all of ours.
The next item we have is financial report. Mr. Cole?
Yes, sir. Superintendent Gottlieb, President Morales, members of the board. I'll just update you really quick. It's been a long meeting, and I'm sure you don't need a whole lot of stuff from me. But at this point, what I'd really like for you to know is that we continue with our audit report preparation and our independent auditing group, and that is still ahead of schedule and making good progress. So at this point in time, and I did speak with our auditors this afternoon just to confirm we only have one identified audit finding. It's the finding that we're all aware of concerning the turf. And so that is good news. And again, they know my position on findings. I don't like receiving a boatload of those at the end and then they say, we'll see you next year. So I like to address them as we find them. And at this point in time, we only have one finding. And again, the audit is progressing ahead of schedule to be turned in timely to the state auditor's office for their approval and acceptance of that report. I will also tell you that our payroll department is doing very well. As you know, we had our payroll officer of almost 30 years retire in recent months, and we have filled that vacancy. We're very pleased with the performance of the individual that has filled that vacancy. I will tell you that they are highly qualified, extremely competent, and they have picked up the role and run with it and have done exceptionally well with these last two payrolls successfully. So our next big event on the payroll side, on the business office side, and of course, thank you again for approving these REA and CWA collective bargaining group salary schedules. Our next big task ahead of us is to update our district salary schedules and get those into motion as soon as possible to be reflected on the next payroll. So we will be all hands on deck doing that, starting that process tomorrow based on these approved salary schedules, the approved increment schedule, which you approved for us last month. They are also going to be working, we're going to need a little bit more work between our groups, our negotiating partners, and our legal counsel. We need a write-up of an MOU pertaining to a one-time benefit that is outlined in the REA collective bargaining agreement. And in order to move that forward so that it can be paid on the December 10th payroll separately from the standard salary payment, we need to move those things forward pretty rapidly. So I will reach out to our partners on that and try and get that moving forward so that we can get that in payroll, get that in the bank, and do it properly. Again, just noting that we'll be audited on these things for next year. So it's just as important to get it right as it is to get it done quickly, and we're aware of those things, and we've been talking about those things for several weeks as a department, and so we will, I have all the confidence in the world that we're going to succeed in getting those things implemented very quickly. I would like to point out that because of where we are in terms of the year, we've just wrapped up the first quarter of the new fiscal year, and so these salaries, while effective July 1, the difference in the increase will be reflected over the remaining pay periods of this current fiscal year. So yes, that will increase your take-home pay for each pay period, recognizing that we're picking up from 3 months into our normal payroll. So I'd just like to point that out, because every year when we negotiate this far into the year and then pick up the difference on the back end of the remaining pay periods, it elevates the actual take-home pay. And then the following year, when you start the new fiscal year, that take-home pay drops because suddenly you're reflecting that same salaried amount over a total of 24 pay periods as opposed to 21 pay periods. So I'd just like to point that out. We've worked with our partners really well to communicate that as well, so that they're not blindsided and their members are not blindsided by that as well. So with that, I'll take any questions that you may have.
Okay, thank you, Chad, very much.
Thank
Sure.
you.
Board members, at this time, I'm going to not discuss updating distant learning. Ms. Cole is working with the group right now. We're going to change that process. I think since we've never done this before, we're learning a lot of things, and we're going to have to change some of those issues, so we'll be working on that for second semester. Madam President, members of the board, that's all I have at this time. Thank you for everything.
Thank you, Mr. Gottlieb. Moving on to board communication for acknowledgements and informational announcements. I do have one acknowledgement that I want to mention. Ms. Kirk was elected Region 6 President for NMSBA, so congratulations, Ms. Kirk.
Thank you.
Yay.
Bravo.
And I will talk about that too. Because
So-
everybody says, okay, what's Region 6? What does that mean?
I have a question, and I know we have unfinished business because we talked about COVID and cleaning, so maybe I can ask this question. If we only have 3 people certified to disinfect with the sprayer, is that because of a licensing, a training dollar, or the equipment that we have?
Wow.
You really don't want to get into this tonight.
If there's a short answer, great. If not, you know,
What we want to do with the disinfecting, Mr. Dolan and members of the board and President, is keep it to where I am sure that when I send a crew in to disinfect, it is done appropriately.
okay.
Because we have cleaned, we know the deep cleaning works, we've had it taped, we've had it reviewed, but the disinfecting is a little bit different.
Right.
And so, and it's not at the hours you normally think about, because it may be Sunday morning, it may be Saturday evening, it may be 9 o'clock at night the following day, because we can't go back into that room for 24 hours.
Right.
So as soon as that 24 hours is open, then I have those 3 people that can go and do that whenever that 24-hour cycle is open. And what we are using is a chemical, you can go in 15 minutes later, and it's not poisonous or anything. It's peroxide, and it kills everything, hydrogen peroxide. Interesting.
Yeah, so the 3 of them split the district up, and they do it
That's right.
on a rotating cycle.
Unless we get a big school like when we had to do at Goddard, then we can get everybody together and do that.
Do that one.
Okay.
Okay, so Melbourne, was that all?
That's it.
That was your, okay, so.
I was asked to find out, so I asked.
Ms. Morales. So I did receive, I'm sporting a new face mask, and on my face mask is from the New Mexico School Board Association. We have 450 members, school board members within the state. Our state is divided up into 8 regions, and we are the Southeast New Mexico, which we are Roswell, McArthur, Hagerman, Dexter, Eunice, Artesia, Eunice, Jal, Hobbs, Lovington, Loving districts. And so then we elect a president, vice president, and secretary to represent us at the state level. So I was board secretary, or region secretary, and then I was elected in September 28th as region president. And so I sit on the board of directors, and Mr. Guillen, who is our director, sent me sent me these and the little button for representing the state. And in addition, he apologized. He said, I have been awarded the status of, I'm now board certified, I'm master board certified, so I did get that. And I started that process back when really Ms. Sanchez encouraged me back when I first got on the board, she was interim superintendent. So I was supposed to have been given my jacket, I get a blue jacket for that designation. And I was supposed to receive that in the spring at our next conference, but that didn't happen because of COVID. So anyway, I will be getting my master board member jacket at the next time
And
we
a big
meet.
raise?
And a huge raise, along with the rest of us. We all get paid such a great salary. Anyway, thank you, Ms. Morales, for mentioning that.
Congratulations, Ms.
And
Kirk.
it's quite an achievement, and I will have an extra duty. And I have a hard time saying no, but it's for a good cause. I represent my district well. Love it.
Thank you, Ms. Kirk.
Okay.
Any acknowledgements, informational items?
Oh, I've got one. I'd like to send a shout out to the Roswell High School Coyotes, the Goddard High School Rockets, and I just want to offer you words of encouragement. You know, if you look at the websites, it says we will play again. You know, as a coach and running the Roswell Youth Football League, I know how hard it is for you guys and girls to be sitting at home and wondering, hey, what has happened? You learn from adversity, and you soldier on and you continue to move forward. So I'd like to send that shout out not only to those 2 high schools, but to all of the schools in the district, the middle schools and the elementaries. You know, we will play again. And remember those words, we will play again. You don't stop because of one thing. You move forward. And that's just words of encouragement to our staff, to our families, to our coaches, administrators, janitors. And if I miss anybody out there, even to the people in Roswell, we will be back and we will be stronger. And we need to remember that. And so that's just my words of my acknowledgments and words of encouragement. Keep your head up and keep moving forward. Don't let anything knock you back. And if you do take a step back, take 2 steps forward. And that's pretty much my words of encouragement to all the people in our districts and in our schools. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Edwards. Anybody else? Okay, this is the end of the agenda. May I have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Thank you.
Second.
Thank you. I have a motion by Ms. Kirk and a second by Ms. Sanchez. May I have a roll call, please?
Hope Morales?
Yes.
Hilda Sanchez?
Yes.
Mona Kirk?
Yes.
James Edwards?
Yes.
Milburn Dolan?
Yes.
And the time of adjournment is 8:56. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Are we off?